Spelunky's music is so good. Did it turn on? Lately it's been, taking a minute to actually tell me that it's on. There we go, okay. Hello, everybody! It is the 17th of December, 2020. It is Thursday evening, and that means that it is time for Shapes and Forms. I, as always, am Planet Jane, and I am joined today by Trevor Whatever.
That's me.
Shredney Vashtar. And also we have a special guest in the form of Myrrh.
Yeah, lock the stable door van.
Lock the stable door
Lock
van.
the stable door van.
Yeah, lock the stable door van. I forgot to... I just realized I forgot to tweet that we're starting, so let me do that real quick.
So, my problem is if I sound like I am talking louder than usual, it's because I am temporarily using earbuds, which mean that my ability to actually hear how loud my voice is has been reduced because I don't have semi-open headphones to hear my own voice volume outside of my own throat.
It's fine. Absolute worst case scenario, I can just slightly turn you down. I don't think I'll need to do that, but,
Fair.
Anyway, so, quick disclaimer before we get started. I actually beat Spelunky 2 last week.
Cool.
While I was just playing by myself with no one watching, so that was...
That's still awesome. I'm glad for
it. I mean, I guess it is, but I really wanted my first victory to be on camera.
Yeah, I understand.
By the way,
dungeon too, right?
It did, yes. By the way, for beating the game, you unlock Guy from Spelunky HD, but he's a dad now. So
they've Indiana Jones him.
He's just very cursed. But we're actually gonna play as Colin, because Colin is who I won with.
Yeah.
I think it's because we have similar vibes. He also likes that weird shade of I guess it's teal. That color.
It's like a cyan color.
A cyan color.
Yeah, it would be turquoise.
Turquoise.
Yeah.
There's lots of names for colors that are between blue and green.
Teal.
Yeah, I mean,
cyan.
there are subtle distinctions, like Seafoam Green and Robin's Egg Blue are very closely, they're about the same level of saturation and lightness, but they have different levels of blue and green.
But Shredney, an internet test, told me I have slightly more eye color cones than the average person. How could I possibly not know these distinctions?
And I'm colorblind.
Yeah.
Oof.
I later found out that the test I took is just been proven to be totally wrong. So that was fun.
Although, actually,
5 minutes of my life I'm never getting back.
With most forms, the thing is, with most forms of color blindness, it just means that certain colors are perceived differently and are hard to distinguish. But not so much I think that people have a lot of misconceptions about it. But it's, sort of in the same way that actually being able to see ultraviolet light, there are conditions which cause it, because the nature of the way that your the lens of your eye filters out ultraviolet light, if the lens deteriorates and is, for example, with surgery, replaced by a special artificial lens, you can see ultraviolet A, I think, UVA, as opposed to UVB, which is very high frequency and not necessarily visible. Your eye no longer filters that, right? So you can see it, and it's just more violet. It's just that the purple keeps going.
It's purple, but more so.
Yeah.
Purple.
And basically, Like,
Purple.
but then you're able to see, like, certain flowers and birds that normally look white to people, like, have white spots and things. You can see that the color, the purple in their bodies, that is the pigment actually reflecting ultraviolet light that they can see because they have wider receptors or extra receptors further up. Like, say, pigeons are actually, I mean, pigeons are already gorgeous, but, like, they have all these, you know, ultraviolet spots in their feathers that make them really beautiful.
Pigeons are birds.
They're
Really, I did
very
all that
good
for a
birds.
friggin' machete. Okay.
Anyway, hello, Sora.
But anyway, yeah. It's a man with the magic eardrums episode.
Oh no, yeah.
Technically, the series is called the Skull in the Box series.
It's man with the magic eardrums to me.
Oh, like Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Oh no. It's a Song of Ice and Fire. Damn it.
I'm gonna ice your fire.
I actually had a conversation about my dad, about that with my dad, how they changed the name of like the series versus the the TV show, because it was something where he was really into the TV show, but I think he only read like maybe the first 2 or 3 books or so out of the like 5, something like that. Either way, most of my family got into Game of Thrones, but that was never really my bag, for reasons that are extremely obvious if you know the type of person that I am, but nevertheless.
It's just weird to me that that has, like, vanished from pop culture.
Yeah, like, I honestly thought, okay, like, can I tell you guys my, vaguely snobby opinion on what I thought would happen to Game of Thrones after it ended?
Sure.
What?
I was like, I think it's gonna stick around as, like, a convention thing for a few years, and then gonna be gone after that. It didn't even take that long.
Not
It
even.
ended like last year, right?
I mean, it's gone back to being sort of just like slightly boosted above where George R. R. Martin's work was before. You know?
Yeah, like that's what I mean though. But like
he's really well known in fantasy circles,
Yeah.
but he's not.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. Is like compared to where Game of Thrones was at its height of popularity, that's a steep drop.
Yeah, it's a steep drop back to, you know, highly successful fantasy author, which these days is kind of like, you know, like, I mean, there is a very big difference between show on HBO and Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah.
Like, Brandon Sanderson is not hurting for money by any means, but it's a very distinct difference.
If we're gonna be completely fair, though, the same thing kind of happened to Charlene Harris's books, because honestly, not even those had the level of popularity of the TV show, because Truth was a massive thing, like in the 2000s, like early 2010s. But the books never seem to have reached that same level of cultural saturation, I guess.
I mean, part of that being was like a lot of the better characters in the show were killed off really early in the books. Apparently.
Yeah.
And like, so that completely changes the direction that it went in, arguably for the better.
Adaptations have a weird way of doing that sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the TV show Justified, like, one of the most popular characters on that was originally slated to be killed off in the first episode based on the short story the first episode was based on.
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
Does it ever trip you guys out how, like, decent chunks of Shapes and Forms are just a pop culture podcast? and that there's people who do the exact same thing that we do, and I would argue in some cases are markedly worse at it, and they like get paid money.
Yeah.
Isn't that fucking weird?
I have a copy. You can find it on my blog.
Okay, so like my PayPal is essentially frozen because I accidentally made it a business PayPal without realizing that it was really a personal PayPal.
Why did that freeze it?
Because I need to send documents and in order to tie it to a bank account, and I can't get money out of it unless I tie it to a bank account. And I don't have any documents because I'm not a business, goddammit.
Mine.
I'm a free woman.
Mine is a business account, and I just had to like give them my my account number at the bank that I was with at the time.
So the solution to this, of course, is to just knock on Elon Musk's door in, I guess, Texas or wherever the hell he's at now, and demand that he unfreeze your PayPal account, despite the fact that he hasn't worked at PayPal in like a decade.
I mean, if I'm gonna be knocking on Elon Musk's door,
you're gonna do a hell of a lot more than just that, Greg.
It's going to be a much. It's gonna start like dipping into some Michael Haneke territory, and I don't think that this. I
don't know who that is, and I always get slightly concerned.
No, Murr knows who that is.
Okay,
I do know who that is.
Well, why don't we transition into the important part of the show?
Well, yeah. Oh, one thing I did want to say first, because it is important, is I got a new computer.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
So I also managed to. Okay, so minor downside is that because a lot of so one of my favorite plugin developers is DestroyFX, who developed all of their stuff for like 32-bit Intel stuff, so which worked on my old Power PC, but like currently is not compatible with Silicon.
How the hell do you manage to have more obscure plugin stuff than I do? I made a whole album with fucking Deputy 2.
I mean, I don't think that like DestroyFX are that obscure. They did they're known for stuff like Buffer Override, which is like an absolutely awesome glitch plugin, and also they're associated with the sort of Crew Smart Electronics, which also did Crazy Ivan, which is called Crazy Ivan. Like, you can't,
It's that guy from Borderlands.
That's Crazy Earl.
No, it's Crazy Ivan. I can't remember why it's called Crazy Ivan, but in the original thing, they use I think it's a poster for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I'm gonna make a knockoff of that called Disgruntled Jonathan.
Oh dear. Disgruntled Jonathan is just like, it has just as many parameters, but they do more polite things.
Yeah.
Basically, what Crazy Ivan does is it does everything to the signal that you put into it at once, and it's really hard to explain. It's like if you had like every like modulation effect, every distortion effect, every reverb effect, like just individual parameters from that just applied directly to a signal, and it's like it just makes any sound like pure hell. It's wonderful. You can use it subtly by like lowering how much, like of the wet signal there is, just leave the dry signal really high.
So if you wanna make something demonic, that's the way to go.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, I can't use some of those at the moment because they need to fix some backwards compatibility stuff with 32-bit stuff.
It's a MacBook?
No, it's a Mini, an M1. It is the new Silicon Mini.
Gotcha. So it's one of Apple's ARM-made chips.
Yeah. However, it is compatible with a ton of other, Intel stuff and also some, stuff from even as far back, like, stuff that couldn't be run on a Power PC. So I'm able to expand what I have. And also a lot of stuff that's really recent.
Now, I do want to point out that stuff that could not be run on a Power PC is a category that does include Spelunky too. So, like...
Yes. There are things that cannot be run on a Power PC, like a good example is the desktop Discord app.
Yeah.
Or Chrome.
I like the little...
But what I mean is, like, for example, a lot of really interesting synth plugins, including, I found a ton of free stuff from Spitfire Audio, who they just put all this cool stuff out for free, including these keyboard sample things based on, for example, a two trombonists doing live looping things, so you can create like this wall of weird trumpet and trombone noises.
First of all, you should give me a link to that sometime when I finally get my stuff set back up on here. Second of all, it's got a jetpack from Present Box.
Hell yeah. Fuck yeah.
Jetpack.
Love
I like
that
the
for
little
you.
dung beetle guys.
Yeah, they're just chilling out.
But yeah, that's one old Mac.
Oh yeah, PowerPC stopped being produced in late 2006. And all I need to do is just replace the power supply on it, which would cost like $30 to $50. It's not even that difficult to do, even for like complete novice like myself. So it's it's just that, I wanted something, more.
Yeah. More modern,
made in
more
this,
flexible.
Made like
16 years ago.
Something that is younger than Cammy. Is that what you're getting at?
It's been so long that Mac OS 11 is out. Mac OS 10 came out in 2002.
Yeah, okay. This was the last generation of PowerPC that I got. So it's from 2006, which means it's 14 years old.
Okay, but still, that's like Mac OS 10.4.
That is, okay. Like the Cammy thing was a joke, but unironically, when that computer was made, I had 2 siblings instead of 3.
Yeah, that is also true of me as well.
Let's see. I got this computer secondhand, like the PowerPC secondhand. My dad got it for me as like a present. Now there are problems with it. Like the person who sold it secondhand after wiping it also took the Runaway chip, which is a combined Bluetooth Wi-Fi chip, because they're really expensive. So it needs an Ethernet connection, because they decided to sell it separately for $500 or some shit.
Certainly, yes, but also you kind of struck me dumb for a moment with the absurdity of saying it has some problems. Of course it fucking does, Shredney. It was made when George W. Bush was still the president.
Yeah, and it was also...
It's a fucking old as fuck computer. Of course it has some problems.
To be completely fair, I have one that's like from, I guess, the early days of the Obama administration. So
I mean, like, the fact that I was able to, run a surprising amount of modern software on it is pretty impressive.
I dispute your definition of the word run in this context, given all the shit you've told me about how you had to, like...
Oh yeah, you have to jury rig some weird shit
Yeah.
to, like, get it to work.
Like...
But not with everything. Like, for example, like, I mean, I was able to run Discord in, like, not in the desktop client, but in the, like, you know, in
the web
my
client.
web browser.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, but also, like... Let me just put it this way. I'm glad you got a computer.
Is it really Discord?
Recently.
Is it really Discord if it's limited to the walls of Chrome?
It
also,
wasn't even Chrome because I couldn't run Chrome in it.
Yeah, you told me you were using like
the walls of Safari.
Yeah, like a hack of Safari or something.
I mean, I would alternate between using a hack of Safari and a hack of Firefox.
Yeah, you know.
I mean, because, like, there are a bazillion hacks of Firefox. It's like, it is a culture unto itself.
Yeah, that's what Vivaldi is, basically.
Yeah.
But anyway, we should get on to the main event, probably.
Okay.
Okay, but just one thing before that. What if Ernest Cline uses Firefox?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Would he then be one of the hacks of Firefox?
Christ.
See, it's funny because he's a hack in the literary sense.
Oh.
I bet you Ernest Cline probably uses like some weird shit like, God, what?
Ernest Cline uses Maxathon.
I haven't even heard of that. What the hell is that?
Maxathon is a fork of, well, not even. What's the term for like a fork that's made illegally? like a
bootleg.
Hold on, I think Cerise is talking to me. 1 second. No, okay, she's talking to the delivery guy. Never mind.
I mean, I was just gonna come with like Komodo dragon or something, but like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, Maxathon is like a
pulling out the deep cuts.
Gray market fork of Internet Explorer that was developed in Taiwan in the late 2000s.
What the fuck?
And I only know about it because I installed it on a school computer in high school as a gag.
Yeah. Get back to the ostensible subject. I would say, as someone who has read both, Harry Stephen Keeler better writer than Ernest Cline.
I mean, I'm not surprised.
Look, like, Lock the Stable Door Van is like.
What browser would Harry Stephen Keeler use?
I don't think he seems like one of those people who was like, the reason that. Hold on, let me try to figure out how to kill this spider, and I will finish this thought sometime this century.
I think Everett True would have strong opinions on browsers.
Probably.
Probably. Or he would alternately have very strong opinions about not having strong opinions on browsers.
Keeler would use Iceweasel.
What is Iceweasel?
It's another like equivalent.
Oh, it's
like Firefox fork. Yeah, it's a now defunct Firefox fork, I believe.
The one I was using
with
was
an exceptionally stupid name. What?
The one I was using was 10.4fox, which is a reference to the Tiger edition of OS X.
Tiger.
Which was 10.4.
Mac OS 10. Lil Nas 10.
Lil Nas 10.
I deadass thought about doing like a Photoshop job of like one of the old iOS, well, not iOS, Mac OS, like box art covers that would put like his face within the X logo, the way that they did back in the day with all the big cats. I kind of want to do that.
Like,
Probably gonna do that.
I got my leopards in the back.
I got my leopard in the back.
Yeah, Lil Nas X is my favorite operating system.
Oh yes, here's even fucking cooler.
It's
So,
gonna kill the
okay.
dog. No, it's not. Okay, never mind.
Okay, that's good.
Dog is outside of blast radius.
Just kill the dog yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea.
Like, you know,
Do you ever just do a murder?
like commit a murder like a real adventurer. Anyway, I'm gonna start reading this.
Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
oh.
And I'm just gonna continue to play Spelunky, essentially.
So, so in order to like make sure that everyone's on the same page here,
Very
quick
important.
summary of the previous 3 novels.
You better make it
1940
real quick, yeah.
In 1927, Hua Li, the Sa Hua Long, a wealthy Chinese restaurant owner in Chicago, was murdered by the Parson Gang, a group of criminals known for dressing up as clergymen to hide themselves. However, when the law tries to arrest the leader of the Parson Gang, Muscle-in Big Gus McGurk, they're unable to fully make the case that Gus was the murderer, and he is given a sentence of only 10 years for attempting to ransom Hua Long. 10 years later, McGurk discovers the skull of Hua Li has been found and can serve as evidence of his own guilt. He hatches a plan with the surviving members of the Parson Gang, possibly including the Inside Wire, a man suspected to be high up in the police department or justice system who tipped the gang off to police actions, and Venus Baldy, an Australian criminal who has gone missing, to steal the skull from the state's attorney's office. The skull is successfully stolen by the gang, and a night watchman, Adolf Reibach, is murdered. That day, a red-headed man carrying a crimson shoebox is apprehended, apparently admitting to the crime. Elsa Colby, a rookie attorney, is appointed to his seemingly hopeless case, which is bad news for her because due to a complex legal scheme hatched by her cruel uncle Silas Moffat, if she loses her first trial, she will forfeit the right to Colby's Nugget, a valuable piece of real estate held by her uncle. For a second, Elsa sees a light at the tunnel when Piffington Wainwright, a foppish young man, is apparently discovered to be the real thief and murderer of Reibach, but her hopes are dashed when it turns out Piffington only briefly posed as the real criminal in order to get out of a bad contract. Her client, who identifies himself only as John Doe, requests that his judge be Ilford Penworth, a judge known for his extra-legal mind. Because Penworth is currently housebound with severe gout and arthritis, the trial is to be held in Penworth's own house. Elsa's something.
Again, I meant
Again, again sees hope when it seems that the real murderer was Silas Moffat himself, who apparently committed suicide on being found out. But this was discovered in between the 3rd and 4th novels to be merely a cruel joke. Also in the first book, some shit happened involving the skull of a gigolo, a bookmaker, and a man with hearing aids that let him pick safes. Oh yeah, and there was also the whole thing with the...
What the
science
fuck?
thing.
Alright.
What happened, Jane?
Go on.
Okay, so I'm going to get some water quickly.
Not a bad
Because-
idea. You're gonna be talking for a minute.
Yeah, a little more than a minute.
Piffington Wainwright, by the way. Every
Wainwright,
character,
indeed.
every character in these books
Mhm.
either has an impossibly stupid name, or they are described in the fashion of like person with distinctive item. It's like, yeah, the man with the crimson shoebox, the man with the magic eardrums.
The man with the wooden spectacles.
Yeah, like that's just like it's a very noticeable and very strange writing quirk.
Yeah.
I mean,
Also-
It gives you character, that's for damn sure.
Also, the really involved multi-layered nicknames.
Like, he hasn't even come up yet, but just lock the stable door van.
Yes.
The man's nickname is an entire sentence.
Yeah. Or the fact that Big Gus McGurk is nicknamed Muscle-In Big Gus McGurk when he's already Big Gus.
My dude literally sounds like a goddamn Home Movies character.
Like, it's like he couldn't decide if he wanted to name the character Big Gus or Muscle-In McGurk, both of which are fine on their own, so he just named him both.
Oh,
I mean,
Lord.
to be fair, I have done that before, so...
Yeah, but, like, I don't think you can give a character two, like, in
Two
quotation marks,
Two nicknames, yeah, like...
Yeah.
There was a character in the first novel named Two Gun Pollock Eddie.
Yes.
That's the guy that used to administrate the TV Tropes forums.
Oh, no. I mean... I can imagine...
Fashion.
That I just realized that out of context that might sound like a very insensitive like race joke. It's not. The guy's name was just also Eddie. That's the only joke
And
here.
he was also, like, I could easily see him as a character in a Harry Stephen Keeler novel.
Not kidding, though. He was actually a fascist.
I mean,
Am I wrong?
I mean, he did kind of run the forum like he had some ideas about the nature of authority.
So anyway,
not as bad as Fightier though. Fightier is worse, and he's still there.
so anyway,
Anyway.
Compass.
God. I must be annoying the shit out of the people near me.
Anyway,
This hotel.
the case of the lavender gripsack. That sounds kind of unfortunate if I say it in that voice.
Now on the Red Shoe Diaries.
Previously on Gossip Girl.
Yabai.
Previously on Riverdale.
Previously on Cinemax After Dark.
Oh no! Man, would those even have fucking previous segments?
No.
Bold of you to assume that there's any plot involved in that shit.
Or bold of me to assume that things don't just happen in 8-minute blocks. I'd say 15 minutes, but that's generous.
Except for that one guy that can do 30, what?
Oh no!
Hey, everybody doing okay tonight?
Tip your waitresses.
Damn enough!
No, unless of course we're talking about Sting, in which case it's, sort of like slow TV. Anyway, the case of the lavender gripsack. Elsa Colby, climbing up the steps to a mansion to attend her first trial, sees a man carrying a heavy, gnarled cane and wearing a white pith helmet. He knocks on the door, and the man inside asks his name, and the man reveals himself to be Arthur Gilbert Fosshart. Something also shocked by, as this is the name of her dead father's best friend, who she believed was currently in Africa.
Trey, I'm gonna fight you.
What did Trey do?
Shreddy, you don't have time to be asking those questions. Go on.
Go.
I always have time. Anyway, Elsa is led into the house and talks to Fosshart, who is surprised to see Elsa, who he has not seen since she was 2 years old, as he has been in West Africa for 24 years. Fosshart says he was summoned to testify and flew here. He is here to testify that the old Schlitzheim brewery he designed contained only one hexagonally shaped room, and also starts to explain the Wally situation and mentions that the whole business about the drug chewing gum was a ruse to throw Lewis, lock the stable door, van off the scent. Elsa goes back to talk to her uncle, who yells at her for the dirty trick she tried to pull on him with the umbrella. She fires back at him about his trick with the fake suicide letter and asks him how he thought of writing it. Turns out it was an attempted hoax by an out-of-work newspaper man who lived underneath Silas, and Silas gave said man some names for his hoax. Also, by pure luck, when Silas left the office, a bunch of gangsters tossed Spinetti the Slot Machine King out a window, thus leaving the corpse Elsa thought was Silas's. They break off their discussion, and Fred Mullins, Judge Penworth's court clerk, announces that the trial will be beginning soon and that he, Mullins, will be serving as combination clerk and bailiff for the trial.
That's not
I'm with the clerk. I'm with the bailiff. I'm with the combination clerk and bailiff.
It is if your court of law is not genuinely accredited by the board of, or the bar of whatever fucking state you're in.
As the trial of John Doe is about to begin, the third-person narration gives a sweeping view of the courtroom and the persons therein, which include Judge Penworth, the combination clerk and bailiff, Fred Mullins, the court reporters, Miss Angeline Swarthmar and Miss Pauline Swarthmar. I assume they're related. Yeah?
Momentary shout out to Fred Mullins, the only person in this entire fucking series who has a normal fucking name.
Yeah, despite being the combination clerk and bailiff.
Oh, that's why he has a normal name, because he doesn't have a normal job title.
Well, normally he does, but they're holding the court at the judge's house because of aforementioned reasons.
Yeah, because gout. Which...
Man, I hate it when that happens.
So it's sort of like a Zoom call, except in reverse. Anyway.
Yeah. Hold on.
It's relatable. Relatable humor for 2020. The district attorney, Lewis, locked the stable door! Van. And next to him, Leo Kilgallen, his helper. The attorney for the defense, Elsa Colby, holding a lavender gripsack, wearing a beautiful dress. The various members of the press, the witnesses, which include Archbishop Stanley Pell, Professor Andre Mustel, Inspector Rufus Scott, Professor Clark S.W. Adgate, a rather pretty young black woman in mourning garb, a likewise rather pretty blonde girl, a Chinese youth sitting next to Hua Lung, a white man with a beak-like nose, another man wearing a prison
John
coat.
Oliver!
Oh my god, it is John Oliver. Gonna be picturing that character.
John Oliver cameo.
A penitentiary guard, a 6-year-old boy, a Russian man
What?
with a beard, and an Amazonian black woman of about 42. Like, I guess real tall and, strapping.
I mean, this book, he could mean that, or he could mean literally from the Amazon, and there's basically no way to know.
I mean, and Silas.
Well, she's a brick!
House.
You're not supposed to finish it. She's just a brick.
Oh, is that a meme?
Yeah, I guess.
After this panorama, the trial begins. Lewis, lock the stable door! Van begins his opening statement about how this will determine whether Muscle-in Big Gus McGurk finally faces justice, and that this trial will also determine the fate of the man who murdered an innocent, kindly night watchman who left his home country out of disgust at the Nazi ideology. We stand. As Van lays out the testimony he expects the witness to give, the Chinese youth sitting next to Hua Lung stands up and introduces himself as Harry Xiong. He apologizes and said he did not know how long the trial is going to be because he needs to catch a flight to San Francisco to celebrate his grandfather's birthday. The judge allows him to leave, and Xiong says goodbye to his Uncle Hua.
Sorry, Does this character exist just to be introduced and then written out with no further impact on anything?
You'll see.
3 hours later, Van goes over the witnesses the court has seen, which include Hua Lung.
It wouldn't be a killer novel without it, would it?
The Chicago coroner, Abel Crum, he's a very able Crum, who examined the headless corpse of Wally all those years ago. E.C. Hedgehill, a civil engineer who hired Moses Klump to dig in the room where he discovered the skull. Gilbert Fossart, who testified that the brewery had only one hexagonal room. Little Vladislav Andversky, who says that he saw Klump dig up the skull. Geranium Klump, Moses Klump's sister, who is still in mourning, who testified that Moses cleaned the skull and taped the jaw to its head. And Beryl Burlingham, who testifies that Klump did give her the skull. In addition, it is revealed that Beryl realized her sweetheart, Harry Hotchkiss, was secretly handsome Harry Hockmeister, a member of the
Damn, how'd
Trit
you figure
Mob.
that one out?
The Trit Mob.
Sounds like a fucking SoundCloud rap group.
Yeah, it does. Trit Mob, what up?
Or like that one influential dubstep group that was essentially like they're trying to rip them off, the Glitch Mob.
Huh.
Yeah.
Like, or you know, or in that vein, like a dance hall crew from the 90s.
Rude boy.
Yeah, like Trit Mob, etc., etc. Some stuff in patois said really fast.
Yeah, good call on just not trying to do that.
I do not know enough patois to accurately make dance hall jokes.
Well, yeah.
I probably do, but I'm gonna save that.
Fair enough. Like, I could just, you know, like, do the, you know, dance like you're selling nails thing. And, like...
All I know about the dance hall is that they're cool on Christ.
What?
They're cool on Christ.
Okay.
It's a song by Wang Chung.
Ah.
Everybody has fun tonight. Licky boom boom down.
Dear. So a member of the Trit Mob, who was connected to Charlie Brink, also sounds like he could be a dance hall artist. An inmate at the Moundsville Penitentiary, which was how Big Gus learned about the skull and sent someone to steal it. Van also lays out several more witnesses who give testimony that makes the case seem airtight, including Professor Clark S.W. Adgate, Professor Rufus Scott, Inspector Rufus Scott, rather.
Right.
Rufus Scott! Sorry. Dr. Blaine, the current coroner, Archbishop Pell, and Dave Muster, all of whom seem to confirm that Rybach died at 10:43, a time for which Doe has no alibi, and that Doe did say to Archbishop Pell that he cracked Van's peat. Huh. Elsa tries to object to Van's claim that the skull is that of Wally, found by Moses Klump, but the judge shoots down her objections. The judge tells Lung that the corpus delicti of Wally has 100% been established tonight in his opinion. Van moves on to bringing up the testimony of Clendenning Moore, who showed that the skull could not be that of the man the headless body was claimed to be. Testimony of Purvis Graham, who showed that Wally was
Purvis Graham.
Purvis Graham.
I don't know if that's much better, but okay.
It's still, you still got the name. Who showed that Wally was almost certainly killed shortly after his kidnapping. With all this done, Elsa Colby calls the only witness she has to the stand, John Doe. Elsa reads a note Doe passed her during the entrance of the final witnesses. The note tells her not to forget that she agreed to put Doe on the stand and that she had better not cross-examine the witness, as Judge Penworth is the kind of judge who will respond poorly to her badgering a witness with a clear story. The note also says she looks great tonight. The judge asks Doe if he really wants to take the stand, and Doe says he does. He also tells the judge that even Elsa does not know the testimony Doe is about to offer. Doe is then brought to the stand, where he asks the judge how long he has under the law to give his testimony, because he wants to give all the facts in a testimony which will recount full conversations of several individuals whose full names and addresses he will give. The judge said he's not particularly limited, and so Doe begins to tell what turns out to be a very long story, which the attentive reader will quickly realize is the story of the first book, with Doe revealing himself to be Peter Givney, the burglar who broke into the home of the Minneapolis bookmaker Mortimer King. Judge Penworth says that Doe's testimony confirms that Doe is indeed a thief. Penworth is mad because he has been listening to a long rambling story for 2 hours involving a Chinese laundryman suing a great bank, a race meet in Mexico, an eccentric recluse who collected emeralds of all shapes and sizes, a prostitute with 7 fingers on each hand, a 6-foot-tall traffic officer with a PhD, a vengeful newspaper reporter, a farmer, a woman who retired once a year to a convent, an expert safe owner with magic eardrums, all woven together.
Hey, so sorry, does this book contain, like, a recap of the first book in the series, and then an acknowledgement of how rambly and pointless the entire thing is?
Yes, it does!
Because that's fucking hilarious.
Postmodern genius Harry Stephen Keeler. We stand a legend.
Indeed. The defendant began talking at 11:30 p.m. and finished talking at 1:30 a.m.
Jesus.
Penworth notes that the story contains 135 characters, but the majority of those persons are unreachable, fictional, only alluded to in newspaper articles, or in the case of one, Blinky, the one-eyed Swedish gigolo, whose skull John Doe claims is the one that was found on his person, dead.
I have to be honest, I sort of forgot about Blinky, the one-eyed Swedish gigolo.
I mean, Blinky the One-Eyed Swedish Gigolo sounds like some kind of musician, but I'm not sure what variety.
The best kind.
It's also, like, vaguely offensive, but, like, in a way where you can't entirely tell, like, who's being affected by that.
Yeah. I feel like Blinky, like...
I will say...
Like, Swedish people, male sex workers, people with one eye... The ghost from Pac-Man?
I mean, I guess... I'm guessing... Yeah, I feel like you... Like, one of those, like, artists who's really trying... It's like, you know, something along the lines of, like, Frog Eyes or something.
I feel like
Fall
Blinky
Guys.
the Swedish Gigolo is just a really great Tom Waits character.
Quite possibly.
It does kind of. Actually, this whole thing kind of sounds like a Tom Waits song that's gone on far too long. Like a Tom Waits song that plays before the universe ends.
when Tom, the only
Hello.
one of us who will truly be. The only one of us who will truly ascend unto the singularity will be Tom Waits, and he will sing the song that will end the world.
Honestly, he's the only one who deserves it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, go on.
We welcome our new robot overlords.
There are only 6 people in this story that could be findable, not including Blinky the One-Eyed Swedish Gigolo. Only 6 who could be findable, identifiable, and capable of giving testimony, and only 2 of those people are able to provide an alibi. Penworth asks why he didn't contact those people, and Doe says he doesn't trust them. Penworth asks why he didn't ask the district attorney to find them in order to avoid being fingered as the murderer, and Doe says that Van would surely have kidnapped his witnesses to get a conviction. Exhausted, the judge begins to summarize Doe's story. Judge Penworth begins his summary by noting that last night, Doe entered the house of Mortimer King, infamous Minnesota bookkeeper, intending to rob King. To his surprise, King entered the house himself, and over the course of the night, Doe learned from a lawyer, Stahl Steenberg, that King was unknowingly in possession of the skull of Blinky, a one-eyed Swedish gigolo.
Do we need that every time? Like, I get it, Harry. The man lost an eye at one point. He was a male sex worker. He's Swedish, and he has unfortunately been murdered in cold blood. I understand. You don't need to keep bringing it up.
Wait, murdered on a ride in which Big Shoes, Steenberg's client, a former Chicago gangster. Steenberg. No, Steenberg's client is Big Shoes.
Yeah.
Big Shoes.
Who's Big Shoes? I thought Big Shoes had a last name too.
Big Shoes is a former Chicago gangster, and he had been an innocent participant. The skull, much like the skull the trial was concerned with, had a nasal operation performed on it, and had the initials MK stamped on it, standing for Mortimer King, rather than in the case of this other skull, Moses Clump. Doe stole the skull, hoping to make an exchange to Big Shoes, and get the money himself, and came to Chicago. Doe had learned from Steenberg the code to make the delivery to Big Shoes. Doe needed to stand on the corner doing crossword puzzles with a crimson shoebox with the skull in it, and would be approached by Big Shoes in disguise. The disguised Big Shoes would then ask several crossword puzzles. First, Joe would ask for a 4-letter word meaning an enclosing structure made of hard material, wall. Then a 4-letter verb meaning relieve, ease. Then a 4-letter word depicting a name by which the tough boys of the Bowery frequently address each other, call. Then a 3-letter word constituting one of the commonest of all Jewish names as commonly shortened, Ike, which, if you don't know, is a nickname for Isaac. Then a 6-letter word meaning a process through which a batch of wine is put, racked. And finally, an 8-letter name of a famous Dutch painter of landscapes living in the 7th decade of the 19th century, Van Spiet. Spiet? Spiet. Van Spiet. Thus, what Joe said at the scene of the crime, at least according to Joe, was not Wally's skull I cracked Van Spiet, but Wally's skull I cracked Van Spiet.
Hey, I'm gonna go back in time and kill this guy.
It all makes sense now. Yay!
You know, I watched fucking Big Order last week, and I think that was about as well put together as this series. Don't ask me why I watched Big
Order. We all know that you are...
Look, this isn't about me, okay? We're talking about Harry here, and his bad book. His bad, evil book.
Anyway, Judge Penworth continues to pick apart Joe's story. He notes that Joe is careful to note, rather than being the skull of a Chinese man, it is actually the skull of a Swedish man. And as is well known, the skulls of the Swedes and the Chinese are indistinguishable due to being brachycephalic. Fucking... okay.
Brachycephalic.
Sure, Jan.
That's a word. It's totally a word.
Doe tells Penworth he's asked both King and Steenberg over the phone to testify on his behalf, and they both acted like they did not know him. Penworth says he will now prove with mathematical accuracy that Doe's story doesn't hold water. According to Bainbridge's Statistics of Criminology, says Penworth, only 1 in 12 witnesses have a motive tending them to controvert an alibi instead of supporting it. Of the 6 people who Doe would have been able to contact, all have a motive to controvert the story, an event that has only 1 in 2,185,994 chance of happening, according to Bainbridge. Out of sheer pity,
Why has this turned into a scientist in an anime calculates odds off the top of his head? Like, why is that the direction this suddenly took?
It was secretly anime the whole time, Jay.
Jerry Stephen Keeler invented anime.
Indeed.
I mean,
Take that, Zuka.
Out of sheer pity, Penworth gives Elsa Colby 1 minute to set forth any arguments to mitigate Penworth's punishment of this clearly guilty man. Naughty, naughty man. Naughty, nasty man.
Shredney, you don't need to actively try to make it worse. The book really doesn't need help in that regard.
Elsa begs Penworth for the right to consult privately with that nasty, nasty Mando. And Penworth, noting the time, which is 2:16 in the morning.
Hey, hold on, sorry. Can you stop for a second?
Yes?
Everybody watching, you hear these guys talking up there? That's us right now.
So
anyway, go on, yeah.
Noting the time, which is 2:16 in the morning, gives them until 2:25 to consult. As Elsa begins to consult with Joe surprises her by declaring his love for her. Elsa explains the situation with Colby's nugget, and Joe expresses shame that he brought her into all of this. He explains his story on the stand to Elsa as with a metaphor by comparing his story to construction made of mechano sticks. Just as you can use mechano sticks to make a bridge, then take them apart and use the same sticks to make a train. All the sticks, characters, in John Doe's false story are real people, but he just did not accurately state their real relations and relevance to the story. He begins to explain why what he now says really happened to Elsa. According to Doe's new story, he, Doe, was a drifter who planned to break into the house of bookmaker Mortimer King in a plan to overhear the name of Horsefix to win a race and make money as a result. However, when Doe hid in the closet, he was shocked to see King come home covered in blood. Over the course of a phone call King then made to one of his henchmen, Doe learned that King had murdered a bookie who believed would turn state's witness in an upcoming senatorial investigation on racetrack gambling. Most of the other characters Doe mentioned were in fact people King hated and mentioned over the course of the phone call. Doe also learned that Stahl Steenberg was in Minneapolis at the same time with two-gun Pollock Eddie, we already mentioned, a gangster. Polycule Eddie. And also learned that the skull on King's desk was that of Blinky the Swede, who used to come into King's books to bet his gigolo wages, but was murdered after he made a lot of money on a long shot. King, realizing the skull of Blinky was an exact duplicate of that of Wally, and knowing about the Parsons gang's plan to abscond with Skull, planned to muscle in on the deal and steal money from the Parson gang by passing off the skull of Blinky as that of Wald Lee. Hearing all this, John Doe took the skull to get the money himself, but mistook Archbishop Pell for a Parson gang member. He assumed Mortimer King would provide an alibi for him, as by providing Doe the alibi, King would give himself an alibi for the murder he committed that night, but King refused to play ball. Elsa says she will try to help Doe, but he must first look her in the eye and tell her that the skull is the skull of Blinky and not Wally. Doe confirms this while looking at the floor, but Elsa demands he make eye contact while telling her this. While making eye contact, Doe will only say that the skull is not that of Wally and not the one that was in Van's safe. Elsa and Doe rejoin the court, and Elsa asks Penworth if he will waive the right for a final address to introduce further testimony and further evidence. Elsa asks Penworth to let her call a witness. Van asks where the witness is, and Elsa says they are already in the crowd. Elsa reassures the court that she can prove the skull is that of Blinky and not Wally with the help of only two witnesses and a few items of evidence. She begins by calling to the stand Rebecca Cohenstein, the most Jewish-named person I have ever heard of. Van is shocked by this announcement as
Just real quick, is Cohenstein a last name? Like a real last name?
I don't know.
Because it kind of sounds like he just stuck Cohen and Silverstein together.
A little. I mean...
or Bernstein, or... You know... There's several Jewish names.
I mean... a Kohen is, it goes back to a Hebrew word meaning priest.
Yeah.
And Stein means stone or mountain.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, something about it doesn't sound.
I believe it's pronounced differently if you're from Russia or from Germany. Like,
Makes
if you're
sense.
from Germany, it's Stein. If you're from Russia, it's Steam.
Yeah, because like you'd probably have a certain amount of drift related to like
Thanks, I can't believe I
the
got
Ashkenazim going from Germany to Russia, and the like vowel shifts that didn't occur in Yiddish but did in German, and vice versa. Because Yiddish is actually basically Middle High German with a very strong Hebrew influence and some amount of Bohemian influence. And actually has a lot of qualities that were lost in later dialects of German. Anyway.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Like, it's not like
Yeah.
this is a short story anyway, so, you know, go on. It's...
Oh, also there was it's worth noting that the before various mergers and movements around of different Ashkenazi populations in Bohemia, particularly in Prague, the dialect. Oh dear! God damn it, Riley!
Dog.
The dialect spoken predominantly in Prague was Canonic, which was derived from Bohemian, which would be modern Czech and Slovak, but the sort of direct ancestor of those two. There's not a whole lot of comparatively, there's a lot less attestation of Canonic because of its more limited area, and because it was less of a literary language than it was a sort of day-to-day art, or sort of like local dialect.
What region?
As I said, like what's now, yeah.
Just making a steamed hams joke.
Oh dear.
It's an Utica expression.
Oh dear.
Really? Well, I'm from Utica.
Oh,
anyway,
dear.
go on.
But yeah, like so yeah, just long digression about the history of European Jews. Incidentally, that sort of migration and also stuff like witch trials is why my family, my dad's family, has a Dutch last name, but is first attested to in Poland, Lithuania, because the records get kind of spotty before that because they were fleeing from the Netherlands in the 1500s. Probably.
Tell me why I'm fighting the bees.
Because
I got the royal jelly. It was all worth it. There is no spoon.
Obligatory Animal Collective reference. So.
Fuck.
So, okay, let's resume. She begins by calling to the stand Rebecca Cohenstein. Lock the stable door! Dan is shocked by this announcement, as Miss Cohenstein was intended to be a state's witness, although the state did not find it necessary to call her, but he allows Colby to call her to the stand. Rebecca Cohenstein, a powerfully built single black mother of two. I'm confused, but I'm gonna roll with it.
I wrote out the bit where she explains that her father was Jewish, but also that her mother got pregnant with her before she married Mr. Cohenstein, and it's a whole thing.
Oh, does that happen later?
Many things in these novel scenes.
Is that in the in this manuscript here?
No, I wrote that out because it wasn't important.
Okay, but it is like that's a story. Okay.
That's the kind of story where if somebody told you that, you'd be like, oh. Because you wouldn't know what to say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah, right.
Neat. Also, although it is worth noting that there are quite a few black Jewish people, but they are mostly Ethiopian in descent. Not exclusively, but primarily. And then that would be like, you would expect a last name like something like, well, sort of like, say, the middle / last name of the guy who's the head of the WHO, Adhanom. His last name, though, is Ghebreyesus, which I believe is a Christian last name. It's got the Jesus right in there. That was another weird linguistic digression. I apologize. Anyway.
Interesting. They give us flavor.
Flavor. Okay, so she is tall lady, and she begins to tell her story to the court.
Fuck.
Rebecca explains that she has 3 jobs: as a scrub woman for City Hall, as a maid for Dr. Sun Chu Moy in Chinatown, and as a professional weeper, someone who is paid to go to funerals to weep over the deceased. Oh.
Actual job that used to exist.
Oh, yeah.
Might still exist.
It still exists in, like, in some Eastern Orthodox traditions, there's a whole thing with that. What is known as, like, they perform what are known as, myriologies, or myriologoi, which are, like, a specific type of, funeral dirge that is sung by such people, by hired mourners. Or I guess, well, myriologoi are hired mourners, but they're supposed to perform particular services in the Greek Orthodox Church. Anyway, Rebecca goes on to explain that today, around 4:45, she ran into a worried-looking Elsa Colby and asked what she could do to help. Colby responded by saying that the only thing she could do to help would be to take a tooth out of the skull of a Chinese boy that was recovered today in the possession of John Doe. Rebecca then went to see Van and asked him for a tooth out of the skull. Van refuses, but it was at this point that Rebecca put her skill as a professional weeper to work and made such a fuss by lying about having an ailing husband who could only be cured by putting the skull of a murdered Chinese person under his pillow. That Van finally took pity on her and gave her a tooth out of the skull, reasoning that it could be used to tell the skulls apart if the Parson gang tried to pull another fast one, on the condition that Rebecca be used at trial as a witness to the prosecution. After this, Rebecca calls Elsa and tells her about the tooth, which she is left locked in Dr. Sun's office. Elsa then has her take the tooth to the Associated Laboratories building containing the National Physical Library and meet a Mr. Mankins, who used a machine to grind up the tooth into powder, which was then put in a tube, which Rebecca has had on her person ever since. The witness testimony completed. The tube of teeth powder is entered into evidence along with 2 documents Elsa has. One by Dr. Sun Chu Moy attesting that he has delivered the tooth of a Chinese boy named Kong Lung to a Dr. Dudley Bandolph, who powderized the tooth. And another one by Dudley Bandolph, attesting that he did indeed powderize a tooth, which he understands will be now used as a control in an experiment. Elsa then takes another glass tube out of her lavender grip sack, which is entered into evidence.
It's the lavender grip sack.
After all this, Elsa takes a strange apparatus out of the grip sack and calls her final witness, Professor Clark S.W. Adgate. Elsa calls Adgate to the stand, who testifies that he's the head of the Crime Detection Laboratory at Midwest University. He further testifies that he wrote a chronological book about the use of UV, in which he says that under UV light, the ground-up tooth of a Caucasian glows green, that of an Asian person glows yellow, and that of a black person glows red. Pardon?
What?
This is like
veering into pseudoscience territory.
It's
veering
verging
into
melanin does not do that.
Very
sir.
generous. This is like this joke is for no one but me, but this is like some shit that that fucking Chingy would post about on Instagram.
Oh no.
Was
Oh
it
god, is he?
Was it B.O.B. a conspiracy theorist too?
Yeah, B.O.B. would be another one. Like,
yeah.
Oh, is he? Wait, is he one of those people who
Chingy's-
believes in the whole, oh god, what's her name? Florence Cress, Frances Cress Welsing's weird theories about, like, you know, how, like...
look,
melanin-
all I know is that
like, weird stuff about melanin.
every Chingy Instagram post is like him posting a picture of Tupac and posting a picture of like a deformed skull that they found in the Andes and being like the star people are real.
Okay, that does sound like potentially one of that might be along the same lines. It's like
Christ.
I don't want to. I can't even. Just words.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So Elsa begins and turns off the light and begins to use a UV light on the tooth of Kong Lung, which indeed glows yellow in the UV light. She then uses it on the tooth taken from the skull, and the entire court is shocked to see that it glows not yellow, not green, but red, indicating the skull is not that of Wally, not that of Blinky, but the skull of an unknown black man.
Oh my god.
Elsa, while as shocked as everyone else, begins to make her case. If the tooth pulled out of the skull glowed red instead of yellow, it is proof that it is not the skull of Wally. Because Joe's indictment states that he is being tried for stealing the skull of Wally, if the skull is proven not to be that of a Chinese person, then he cannot be convicted of stealing the skull of Wally and the murder of Adolf Reibach while trying to steal the skull of the same. Because of double jeopardy laws, the state will then be unable to try Doe again for the theft of the skull of Wally. Penworth, conceding in Elsa's point, gives a verdict of not guilty and asks Doe why he lied about the skull in the first place. Doe agrees to finally tell the truth. He reveals that he had himself arrested today because he knew that by doing so it would be the only way he could catch the real criminal in the Wally crime. He explains that he is in fact P. Wainwright, or Parks Wainwright to his friends, brother of Piffington Wainwright. The reason Piffington had himself arrested for the crime was part of a scheme to get his brother out of a bad contract where he was forced to write a radio program called Uncle Griffey's Bedtime Animal Tales for Tiny Tots. See Book 2, The Man with the Crimson Box. It is at this point that a journalist in the room reveals that the plan failed due to a sudden corporate restructuring in the form of Adlai, Collerman, and Grimshoster, the firm that produces Uncle Griffey's Bedtime Animal Tales for Tiny Tots. Parks is disappointed but continues his story. Parks is a wanderer who came to Chicago from Minneapolis to visit with and consult the library of the man who paid his way through his senior year of college, due to Parks being friends with the man's son. Parks reveals that the man he's speaking of is none other than Wah Lung, and his friend was none other than Wah Lee. Penworth begins to put the pieces together. He thinks that Parks must have gotten himself arrested to draw up the inside wire. Parsons gang, who must be one of the witnesses at the trial. Parks explained the reason he chose Penworth as the judge, that he needed the trial to be at the specific location it is. The skull that was found on him was the skull of a black man who was used as a practice operation as a prop to show Wally how the surgery would go. Parks drilled a hole in the back and inked the initials MK into the skull to make it identical to the Wally skull. Parks further reveals that part of the reason he had to have the trial in this house, as it was a place where he could have a local electricity superintendent, Albert Domer, another friend of Wallung, temporarily turn off the lights. Penworth asks why Parks believes that the fisherman in the Wally case was also the inside wire for the Parson gang. Parks explains that Wallung had realized on the day that Wally talked to his father for the first time, a party rung in party rung Lee's room, directly claiming to be an ex-patient inquiring about getting the room back, and who thus learned that while Lee was checking out the next day.
Cool.
But while Wally has been talking to the man, Central came in on the connection and said that the calling party, drop your nickel please, IV 199, and the rest of the number was obliterated by the dropping the nickel in question. Hua Lung then investigated the IV exchange and learned that it was a temporary exchange classification that was never even listed in the telephone directory. Lung befriended a young Chinese clerk in the telephone company named Dong Fu. Fu was able to give Lung the identities of 7 of the numbers, but died in a car crash before figuring out the identity of the owners of IV 1991, 1995, and 1999. Penworth asks why Lung never got the police involved. Lung responds that he only had a theory. A game theory.
Shut the fuck up! I hate you!
And he knew
Get out! I fucking am going to destroy you.
And he knew that the inside wire of the Parson gang was a man of power who, if threatened without sufficient evidence by a Chinese man, would be able to bring down a storm of racist violence against the Chinese-American inhabitants of Chicago. Yeah, that got dark. Lung was willing to risk his own life and livelihood, but he was not willing to risk that of his fellow Chinese-Americans. Penworth decides that Lung must have found one of the 7 numbers, and realizing that the person would not only have functioned as the gang fingerman, but would assuredly be a witness in any case involving the Wally kidnapping. Park says that this is correct, and that he also knew the skull would be in the guilty party's house while he was busy at the trial. Penworth further deduces that Parks brought the suspect here to have his premises searched, and that the person searching the house would signal a success to Parks by flickering the lights. Parks explained that they had to work in such a manner if their suspicions proved to be false, not a sign would be left of what they had done and tried. For this reason, they got a safe expert who was a friend of Hua Lung's to do the job. The safe of the suspect possessed 57,600 combinations, which, if individually set and tried at an average of 3 seconds each, would take 36 hours to break into at a minimum. Thankfully, however, the safe expert invented a pair of tiny cone-like eardrums, not unlike those in the story Parks told, that allowed him to notice certain minute sounds, which, combined with his knowledge of the make and model of the safe, would allow him to narrow down the number of combinations to be tried to 7,200, which would only take 6 hours at most. Penworth says that he must not have gotten through the safe, but Parks insists he did. Earlier, when the lights were turned off for Elsa's demonstration, the lights dimmed slightly before Inspector Scott flipped the switch. An increasingly angry and incredulous Penworth refuses to believe the Parks man succeeded and continues to threaten Parks with an indictment. He begins to adjourn the court, but Parks asks the judge to wait until they determine that the evidence was found. Penworth demands to know how they could know this, as the person who would have found the skull was in the perpetrator's house. At this, Parks asks Inspector Park to open the locked door, and in walks Harry Seung, the Chinese youth who walked out of the trial earlier, holding the skull of Hua Li! Seung also reveals that he also found a revolver in the safe along with 1,400 of the ransom money, along with X-ray films of Wally. At this point, he is interrupted by the sound of gunfire, and the court turns to see Judge Penworth slumped over in his judge's chair, or having shot himself in the head, for the inside fire of the Parson gang was none other than Judge Ilford Penworth.
Oh my god.
Seung reveals that the safe also contained the hammer which was used to murder Adolf Reibach, but is again interrupted by Fred Mullins, the court clerk, who has grabbed a hidden submachine gun and is threatening the court with it. He threatens the court with another St. Valentine's Day massacre. Before he can start shooting, he is himself shot in the forehead by Harry Seung using the same gun that was used to kill Wally. As Mullins falls, his toupee falls off, revealing a shiny bald head with a nude Venus tattoo indicating that Mullins was none other than Venus Baldy, one of the last surviving members of the Parson gang. As Elsa and Parks leave the courtroom, Elsa thanks Parks for saving her fortune by making her the winner of the trial, which means that she will not forfeit Colby's nugget. Parks reveals that Wah Lung has been convinced for the past 12 years that Penworth was both the inside wire and the finger man in the Wah Lee case, as Penworth had IV 1995 on the day Wah Lee was rung in the hospital. Parks also says that Van mentioned to him that, as a lawyer, he, Penworth, once went to Australia in connection with a gold mine he bought in order to locate some miners whose signatures were necessary to clear the titles, and employed Venus Baldy, a forger, to forge the signatures. Later, when Venus was in Chicago, he introduced Penworth to Gus McGurk, and together they formed the Parson Gang. According to Parks, Wah Lung was unable to prove that Penworth was the inside wire, but when Wah Lee's skull was recovered and then stolen, Lung knew that Penworth must be involved and hatched a scheme with Parks Wainwright to finally bring the judge to justice. Also mentions that the court almost certainly thought Parks was guilty after his story, because the story, the plot of the first book, was too perfect and brilliant a piece of dramatic web work, a story that hung together too ingeniously to ever be real. Penworth's plan, meanwhile, was to convict Parks and make it the case that the skull was not...
My God, dude, like... You break any of your ribs sucking your own dick that hard? For fuck's sake.
Okay.
It's at this point that the author's father comes to tell him that he was always proud of him.
Penworth's plan, meanwhile, was to convict Parks and make it the case that the skull was legally the skull of Wah Lee, and it would have revealed it during McGurk's trial that the skull was actually not that of Lee, which would have blown the state's case sky high. He did not bargain, however, on Elsa Colby, the rookie lawyer, being one step ahead of everyone else criminologically, and being able to prove that the skull was not that of Wah Lee. Parks thanks her, but Elsa said that she could never have done it if he hadn't confessed his love to her, that gave her the spirit to win the trial. At this point, Wah Lung appears with Mr. Adlai, Parks' boss, who also attended the trial unbeknownst to the latter. Adlai tells Parks that he heard the story he told tonight, the plot of the first book, and was so blown away by Parks' brilliant story with its many threads in gangland, policedom, London, Minneapolis, San Francisco, with brilliant characters, dramatic dialogue. Parks a new job as a writer who can write what he wishes to write, instead of writing the kid stuff Parks was formally resigned to. Parks tells Elsa that his confession was not just a scheme to get her motivated, but a genuine confession. Silas Moffat comes down to reluctantly concede defeat, and Elsa tells her that she plans to marry Parks and sire a brood of red-headed children who grow up in Colby's nuggets. The novel ends as Elsa and Parks kiss. The end.
Fuck.
Or is it?
I fucking hope so.
Oh dear.
Like,
that was a lot.
You read for about, like, not too much under an hour, and it felt like 30 years.
There was a lot going on. Despite not a lot going on.
Like, I need to, like, check the news to see if Joe Biden's inauguration happened yet. That's how long that took.
Yeah.
You know. So, here's my question, okay?
Uh-huh.
Is there any point in the author's life where he was employed as a children's radio play writer?
Probably.
Just out of idle curiosity.
You know, reason.
I want to note that the entire first book was a lie.
Yeah.
That really kind of, like... I don't know why that bothers me, because it's not like this fucking thing's continuity would have been any easier to follow if it wasn't. But, like... fuck you. That's like something that an author would do nowadays, and people would be like, oh, it's so brilliant.
Yeah, just...
He was ahead of the curve.
Yeah. Also in, like, that...
Harry Keeler just out here like, isn't it fucked up when books lie to you?
And isn't it fucked up when you can't get out of contract making insipid children's entertainment?
Like,
when really you want to be a brilliant novelist?
Hard-boiled mystery writer. Poetic cinema.
it's like...
So essentially, the first novel was a book within a book.
Like... In the anime And Yet the Town Moves,
Uh-huh.
the main character is a maid with a love of detective novels. And at one point in an episode, she writes a very bad detective book. And it, unironically, I got more out of that than I did out of Mr. Keeler's.
A lot of the books he wrote were like 1,000-page novels that like they demanded you split up into 4 novels.
It's just like... It's too much. It's like if James Joyce sucked. It's like if Ulysses was really bad.
So the thing that just got me to thinking was, like, with Finnegan's Wake, is like, the thing about Finnegan's Wake that makes it so difficult is that it is essentially nothing but puns.
Yeah.
Like, and they're really elaborate puns in, like, multiple languages and shit.
And the thing that makes Harry Keeler's books so difficult is that they don't make any fucking sense.
I mean...
Like...
It's more that he takes the Dickensian trope of the contrived coincidence and just builds the entire everything out.
It's just like I don't... Here's an interesting question for you, okay? If you had to say what the theme of this series is, what would you say?
I'd say the theme is... I'm gonna have to think about that for a sec.
This is the rest of the episode, by the way. We're a book club podcast now. Strap in, get ready.
Yeah, I'm gonna use the restroom for a second.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Themes.
What do you think, Trey?
I think that that's what happens when you are writing by the seat of your pants and want to appear as if you're like super detailed and you know everything going on in your novel. So you end up just like kind of looking back. Okay, like what can I add that will kind of seem as if like I plan to do this, but actually I have no idea what the hell I'm doing.
See, I actually think the opposite. I think he genuinely did plot it out meticulously, because it being meticulous is the only interesting thing about it. Like okay, not the only interesting. Like I haven't actually like properly read the books, I guess, so I can't say that. But like the most interesting thing certainly is the weird, like, very elaborate strings of bizarre coincidences.
I mean, I think what it is like that he... I get the feeling like he plotted out the first book and then realized that there were, like, weird holes in it, and then decided to make that the basis of... or that, like, he wanted to, like, do something more expansive. And so he just sort of, like, turned it into a weird, unreliable narrator thing within a larger thing, but then sort of just kept spinning the plot out more and more elaborately from there. To be less acerbic, he like the impression I get is someone who likes the act of writing but isn't very like just doesn't really know how to make a story be about anything. Like I like...
The reason I asked the question that I did is because, like, I would be... Like, maybe there might be something in there about, like, fair play, but, like, I don't know.
I think there seem to be, like, things regarding, like...
There's definitely, like, a whole...
layers of deception.
That's one. And then there's, like, the whole thing... Because, like, the way it ends, right, is this lady's testimony, like, cuts through it all. Right?
Yeah.
So maybe there's something there, like, you know...
That it has to do, I think, to some degree with the concept of the pursuit of truth.
Yeah. But it's very... this is a term I've started using a lot in my critical writing, and I don't know if I'm good or bad for doing that. It's very under-articulated. Like, it doesn't...
I should probably... I didn't include it in my summary, but every book has, like, a fake, like, climax for things that sort of ties everything up, and then that gets retconned in the next book.
Huh. Yeah, that's probably an effect of having to, like, divide it into sections like that. You know, where he was, like, you know, originally plotting it as one long novel.
That seems like more of a practical concern. I don't know, like...
But I think what it is it's kind of like, it's weird is like that the way that he wraps it up at the very end is, you know, like a lot of like the ultimate conclusions seem very pat, yet like the way that he explores them earlier, like it's like he's very interested by certain themes, but isn't like...
He doesn't... God damn it! I keep running into.
Like he is very interested in exploring certain themes, but he doesn't know what he wants to conclude them with. So he's just kind of like, they're there. But he concludes them in a very standard way because he can't find a way to fit in a more interesting conclusion in a way that satisfies the necessities of the kind of stories he's telling.
Yeah, like it seems like it's the thing you get from like people who don't like study form very much in art is just like he wants to write about these things but doesn't know how, basically, effectively. What?
He's obsessed with form.
How would you say so?
I mean, like, he thinks like he's building a bridge, but with storytelling.
Yeah, like construction in terms of structure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh yeah, no, that's fair. But what I mean is, like, I guess, I mean, like, I am not a book critic, but like, the impression I get is of somebody who doesn't really know how stories, like, why stories are generally told the way they are. Does that make sense?
I think his guiding principle is that the story is when you have a lot of elements that come together. That is one aspect of, like, storytelling and art, but, like, not all of it.
Yeah. It's like it's like words. I'm having trouble with words. That was a lot, by the way.
It was very much. Not in a bad way. I mean, like, in a bad way, but like it was fun to.
Yeah, it's like the thing is, it's like at least it's entertaining.
And like certainly, like I know this is kind of a pet peeve of Murs, so I'm going to apologize for. Oh, those weren't fired, huh? So I'm going to apologize for engaging in it here. I would put that over, like, Catcher in the Rye. Most other books I had to read in high school. I don't know.
I will say, like, this kind of gets left out of summaries, but, like, when he writes like two people trading insults or two people flirting with each other, he's actually pretty okay.
I can buy that. Like,
Yeah.
I also write fiction sometimes, and I also am very bad at it, except for stuff like that. Like, stuff like that is not like you don't need like training basically to figure out how to get good at that. You just need to practice a lot.
I mean, I don't know. Like,
like better at it than Ernest Cline is.
Okay. I mean, to be fair,
the problem is that
I'd rather read this than Ready Player One.
The problem is, I think part of it is this. It definitely indulges in some like wacky pseudoscience stuff, but it doesn't feel as like actually pretentious as Ernest Cline is.
Yeah, no, like I think
Ernest Cline wants, like, at least early on, really wanted people to think I am very smart. Whereas it doesn't feel like I think that Harry Stephen Keeler just was like, I want to write the kind of stories that I would want to read.
Yeah.
Which I respect.
Yeah, like he doesn't seem like a jerk or anything like that, certainly.
It's like, it is definitely, I respect somebody who writes stuff that might not be technically absolutely brilliant, but is clearly what they want to write and want to read.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, living the dream, frankly. I appreciate that. I think that's also kind of like why, I don't know how to explain it, is like why I find like very sort of like as I've gotten older, that like a lot of what I guess you would say is like very quote unquote embarrassing music doesn't bother me nearly as much as stuff that's very polished and extremely unoriginal.
Yeah, I mean, I can see. Yeah, no, like, I would definitely put this over. I don't know, like, freaking generic story about a writer with depression 105. You know what I mean?
Or a college professor has a affair and is sad.
Yeah. There's everything's relative at the end of the day.
I mean, like, I have heard that in terms of actual writing, J.M. Coetzee's Disgrace is actually a really beautifully written book, but the premise being essentially that is like, but why should I care? It's genre fiction. It's just that they don't call it genre fiction because, like, sad professor has affair and is sad is, like, not considered a genre because it's literary. It's like...
But what if a sad space professor had a sad space affair?
I mean, it's just the same, but it's in space.
No, now it's genre fiction and it's trash.
In the Star Wars universe, and he's having an affair on Bespin, the Cloud City.
Now it's genre fiction and it's bad.
I mean, okay, here's the thing. I do want to, like, state is that, like, nowadays it being, the thing is that it's not, like, it's trendy to be, like, vaguely fantasy or science fiction adjacent.
Maybe, like, I guess. I don't, like, I'm not plugged in with what people are reading in 2020. I just remembered... What?
I said, delicious turkey leg.
I do distinctly remember a period of time, like maybe 10 or 15 years ago, where the prevailing opinion, not just among, like, you know, critics or whatever, but among people who fancy themselves as, you know, a bit of a reader, was that genre fiction was basically garbage, unless the genre was sad man cheats on wife. Like,
yeah.
And
am I making fun of sharks? No, I'm making fun of the New York Times bestseller list.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, yeah. Also, but like, the thing is, actually, for a long time, if you have fantasy tropes in a story, but, you know, you claim, oh, it's not about the fantasy elements, it's about the human condition, then you can, like, get away with, like, being Mark Helprin, for example.
The literary equivalent of, unlike other mecha anime, Neon Genesis Evangelion is about the characters.
Or, like, unlike gauche fantasy fiction, you know, and then lists author who's clearly just a fantasy author who happens to set things in the present day, which is, it's a thing, you know, contemporary fantasy is a thing. Or, you know, oh, it's mythic fiction, you know, that sort of thing. But by which we mean you're writing sort of pretentious, hipstery, literary short fiction, except that a person dates a sphinx.
You know.
I would like to note that I'm absolutely shocked that, like, with everyone loving puzzle box narratives in TV, that nobody's made a Gene Wolfe TV show.
Yeah!
I have only a pretty vague idea of who Gene Wolfe is.
Book of the New Sun.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, you could the Book of the New Sun guy. That
his novel, his
passingly familiar.
His first proper novel piece is legitimately one of my favorite books ever. I read it a couple of times.
Like, this is going to sound like an attempt to be like some kind of weird flex, and it's not that. But I just, like, I do not read. At least I don't read prose fiction. Don't really have a particularly, like, a reason for not. It's just, like, not a medium I super connect with, really. I used to read a lot when I was much younger, but
I am told by the kids these days that is an ADHD thing.
I have heard that as well. It might be that in my case too, but I have no way of knowing, really.
I mean, I'm kind of the same way, but, like, the thing is,
it does not help that the one book I've read in the past year was Boogie Pop, which I was like, well, this isn't very good.
That's unfortunate, yeah.
Again, I mean, that was originally written in Japanese. That might be a translation thing, at least partly, but, you know, kind of put me off from trying more for a while.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I mean, with me, part of how I would, you know, like, occasionally get past that is read short stories.
I mean, like, I do sometimes read what I guess are technically short stories, but even that, not particularly often compared to how often I read, like, manga.
I mean, yeah, but that's, like, you know, I mean, it is still reading fiction.
Yeah, no, I'm not like being elitist about it. It's just like, it's a different medium.
Yeah, it is.
What's up?
What's up?
But
Goodbye, Dracula.
Hey, Dracula.
Goodbye.
Referring to vampires as Draculas is the funniest shit.
Yeah, they're Draculas.
Remember when Dracula had a hamburger?
Yes, I do. Why, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. Dracula, the lord of all vampires, eating a hamburger like a common man. That movie is fucking hysterical.
Yeah, didn't you say that, like, that show was surprisingly okay, actually?
It's a movie. It's, Dracula, Lord of the Damned. I wouldn't call it okay. Honestly, I think it's pretty bad, but, like, it's kind of funny.
Like, it is, but I mean, like, it's not quite as...
I feel like it probably works a bit better in the original Japanese, because that's an anime film. Which is not immediately evident, because it has that, like, cross-Pacific art style that was kind of a thing at the time. But, like... Okay, I'm just dead.
A giant spider preyed on me.
I hate it when that happens.
Makes it sound as if makes it sound as if he's trying to pray to Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, Spider Jesus.
Spider Jesus.
I mean,
but...
who says there hasn't been a Spider Jesus?
Well, there's a Spider Jerusalem, so...
Oh dear.
But what I was gonna say, actually, what was I going to say? What were we talking about?
Dracula?
Oh yeah, like, that movie's a Toei and Marvel co-production of all things.
Marvel as in...
The comic people, yeah.
You ever think about how the whole reason Super Sentai has giant robots is that collaboration?
Yeah, that's really weird. The Spider-Man manga is... Like, I don't really like describing fiction this way anymore, usually, but it's insane. It's just... It's...
They were gonna do a Captain America series, and rebrand it as Captain Japan, but then like that fell through, so they like retooled it as a third season of Super Sentai, and so a giant robot like. Japanese
you just impaled yourself.
Yep.
You just played yourself so hard.
Congratulations.
Continue, Murph.
So Japanese Spider-Man had a giant robot.
Yes.
And then they were going to do a follow-up series called Captain Japan that was like Captain America, but Japanese.
Yeah.
But that fell through, so they like retooled the third season of Super Sentai to have a giant robot, and that's why Super Sentai has a giant robot.
Huh.
And this is an objective good, because it eventually led to SSSS Gridman.
Yeah.
Which is an anime that I like a lot.
I still haven't seen Gridman.
Don't call it that, but also I will watch it with you if you want.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. I'm gonna go to bed now.
Alright, good night.
Good night.
Thank you for dropping by for the season finale of Man with the Magic Eardrums.
the thrilling conclusion.
Yeah.
Indeed.
See you, Mer.
See.
Good night.
Well, we got like an hour and 15 minutes left. We can talk about other things, like how I watched Big Order this past weekend.
Oh no!
Was that this weekend? Yeah, I think it was.
See, me and that new thing Bums is lagging. I'm starting to feel like a dungeon dragon.
Yeah.
Rough.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about how Jane watched Bung Under.
Look, like, I don't even know what to say about that show. Like, where do you start?
Okay, on a scale of like, how do you star rating it?
I think I gave it a 3 out of 10. Or like a 4 maybe.
That's generous.
So like, here's the thing. I don't generally score below a 5 unless I actively regret watching it.
Yeah.
So I have I have very few things scored below 5 out of 10 on.
I feel like the threshold for active regret to me is below 2 out of 5.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's like that would be
like
1
below
point. That'd be like 1 point lower. Than
yeah,
like
a 4 out of 10 is not an active regret. It's just disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
or like kind of bad. 3 out of 10 is bad.
Like
2 out of 10 is real bad.
But what I'm getting at is like I generally, like, even if a show's not very good, I usually at least kind of like I can appreciate something about it. Once you go below 5, the things to appreciate start to dry up very quickly. So just to give you an idea of where my curve is for the purposes of scoring.
Whereas like for me,
it's a bad series. Full stop.
Yeah.
Would I recommend it to anybody? No, unless you're a weird person like me who enjoys watching shows just like disintegrate at the seams.
Yeah, which is interesting, honestly.
Oh, you don't like it when I blow up their floor now, huh? Yang used to not care about that unless you hurt the turkey. So I guess they changed that. What is...
Well, now the turkeys can get out, so that's counterproductive to his goals.
Rating system discussion, Neon, no. Listen. If you want fun and interesting content, there are other channels on Twitch you can watch.
I mean, you just missed us, like...
We did just read a horrible book from the... When was Keeler around?
The 40s?
The 40s?
30s, 40s.
30s and 40s. But anyway, like... I was just telling you how my skill works, Tredney, for the purposes of giving you like a baseline.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I kind of put it like this: is like I think of it more as
I wanted to keep talking about the show.
Okay, but I mean, could I just outline my kind of curve just to give you an idea? Because it's like, to me, it's sort of like what Roger Ebert said about like not liking to rate things at a 2.5 and like rounding like below a 2.5, so rounding up a lot of the time is because the thing is that you're saying that that there's more bad than good below that point and kind of dissuading other people but then like, so I guess if something is below average, like if it's like just below, like at that area, like that area of like 3, 4 into 5 is like the realm of disappointments but not active offense, and then it doesn't really get like real bad unless you drop below the 2 out of 5 into 1.5 kind of territory. Less than 3 is real bad.
I can name off the top of my head, I can name every show I've ever scored below 5 on Analyst. I have not done it many times.
Yeah, I the thing is, like, I don't bother scoring most things that I can't tolerate watching for long periods of time.
Well, I only score things that I finish. There have been things that I probably would have given like a 1 or a 2 out of 10 if I had watched more than one episode of them. But I
yeah,
I don't seek out that level of bad generally.
Yeah, like, I mean, I might seek that out.
Go for like
if
funny
it's like
bad sometimes.
Yeah, if it's funny bad, but then it's like hard to rate it. Like, how do you rate Garzy's Wing? How do you rate Mars of Destruction?
No, I don't think that's hard. Like people always say that that's hard. I don't think it is. If it's like
no, but I mean, like,
poorly put together but like you like it anyway, even if it's not for reasons that were intended, I still think you give that like at least for my scoring system, I put that at or north of a 5.
That's reasonable. Like, if it is purely on the basis of enjoyment, whether intended or not.
Well, I would argue that all rating systems are based on enjoyment. It's just that people are weird about what they call enjoyment. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
That's fair. Like, I distinguish between enjoyment per se and like respect.
Yeah.
Because I can respect something and not.
Yeah. No. Like.
Fun.
Like I mean that's kind of how I felt about Neon Genesis Evangelion, but that's another conversation again.
I mean
also.
that's how I feel about like Ghost in the Shell and Jinro. Like I don't particularly like Jinro that much. Okay, there are a few scenes that are actually really, really cool, but like most of the movie, I find it really slow and boring. It's like slow in a way that I don't like, and I like slow things. But it just doesn't go anywhere, and it's like.
Can I get back to my continuing bafflement with this anime that I watched last weekend?
All right, yeah.
It's just just to like get. That was all set up to say like just to let you know where we're at with this one. Would I recommend it to anybody? Not unless you like basically train wrecks. The show itself is like this. Okay, so the creative team, right? The creative team. It is the studio Ostier, I think they're called. And they have only made ever like 4 shows that anybody cares about. One of which is Big Order. Another one of which, like last year, just to give you an idea of the general quality of their work, was Arifutera. So
yeah,
you know,
and
yeah, that one.
Yeah,
and
that one.
The original concept, like because the show is Big Order is based off of a manga, right? And the manga is written by the same guy that wrote Mirai Nikki, Future Diary. Mirai Nikki is an extremely polarizing series. I've never seen it, but I've met people who think that it's like pretty good, and I've met people who think that it is one of the worst things ever aired on television.
Yeah, it seems like a thing.
However,
that I have not positive feelings about.
Like, whatever you think of Mirai Nikki, I have found that people almost always agree that Big Order is markedly worse. So that's where we're starting from, is like the bad one from the Mirai Nikki guy.
Yeah, and also, but the really weird thing is the series composition person has done a whole lot of different stuff, often with like a surprising amount of it with like Team Shinbo people. Yeah,
there's like it's like this is a very inside baseball thing to say. It's like Team Shimbo backwash is some of the visual composition on the show.
I mean, that makes
not
sense.
In a good way though.
Like the series composer worked on And Yet the Town Moves, and
Himbo.
And both seasons of Baka and Test, which were directed by his name is escaping me, Shinonuma, who was the director under Shimbo on Penny Pony Dash.
Like, what I will say, it's probably not that guy's fault. or really like anybody at the studio, because the show looks decent at the very least throughout.
Yeah.
That the show is how it is mostly just some truly mind-boggling writing.
Yeah. I mean,
the big
script, but
the big infamous thing people know about from Big Order is a scene in the 4th episode where our hero accidentally gets a girl pregnant by touching her fake bunny ears.
And they're trying to...
While they are trying to avoid... they are trying to stop
avoid a tactical nuclear strike.
Yeah, a nuclear strike on the city that they are in. That happens in the show, and I'm not, leaving anything out. That's just the plot of that episode. And that's the 4th episode out of 10.
So the director of Big Order primarily was responsible for episode direction.
Yeah, no, Shredney, I'm sorry. This is interesting, but we can't talk about the creative staff anymore until I explain what the show is.
Okay.
Because
sure. All right.
Somebody want to touch my bunny ears? Go, no. That's bottom left.
They did. God damn it! If you're gonna just instantly, just with the touching the bunny ears, get somebody pregnant, you don't even get to do more than that. That's rude.
It's the fucking weirdest shit ever. I get everyone's instinctual reaction is gonna be oh, it's a fetish thing. Perhaps. But why? For whom?
It's an attempt at symbolism. While
I don't know. I don't know about that. Big Order is the least about anything of any anime I've ever seen.
Yeah, but that's my point. Is it supposed to seem symbolic?
I don't think it is. I don't know if it is though.
So rabbits in a lot of cultures are associated with fertility.
I know this. I know this, but
and also the moon in Japan.
The way
insanity.
The way that everything about the show is just put together makes it seem like no one involved has ever heard of symbolism. It's all these things that seem like they should mean they seem like they should be fairly obvious stand-ins for things, but because the show is so absurd, they don't actually feel like they are. Okay, so the whole premise of the series, such as it is that there was this big disaster XD years ago. I think it was 10 in this particular show, but that plot device shows up all the time in anime. And during that event, people who were involved were visited by a floating fairy woman who grants them a wish, and they get superpowers based on their wish. That is the core premise of Big Order. And our protagonist is a young man who wished to take over the world. And somehow this caused the disaster in the first place. So, that's the setup, right? Okay? So everyone's still with me. Because I know that's a lot in of itself.
Yeah.
What the show does with this, because, the first episode involves, he's like living with his sister, and then this group of people figure out that he was the one who caused the disaster, and they send an assassin lady after him to kill him. So you think that the show is going to be, okay, he has to fight off these attackers, right? Like, you think it's going to be like a superpowered villain of the week kind of thing. And then we find out what his power actually is, which is that he can mind control people. And if you think that this is going somewhere skeevy, boy howdy. Do you not know the half of it? So the first episode ends with him, yes, but in a way that is so just wildly disconnected from what you would think by knowing that. Like, the end of the first episode is this lady attacks him, and he, orders her not to... By the way, his power is called the Dominator. I just thought I should get that out there real quick. And... yeah. And, so, in a plot point that is directly ripped from... where else but the first season finale of Code Geass, he then accidentally mind controls her into falling in love with him. And
oh dear.
This lady then becomes the secondary protagonist of the show. Her name is Rin, and she looks exactly like the lady from Mirai Nikki. And then there's this whole thing. Like, I want you to realize that I've said all that I've said, and we're like 1.5 episodes into a 10-episode show. But like, then there's this whole thing about fucking these people want to use his power to take over Japan so they can make it like a haven for the superpowered people. And that's a whole thing for a while. Like, I'm struggling to even describe the rest of the plot points coherently, because it's just all so terrible.
Dumb.
Like, it's so terrible. Like the nuke thing. Okay, so like that the premise of that episode is that they have to stop a city from being nuked, which is like a lot in of itself. But then the whole bunny ear thing happens, and like that's pretty indicative of the tone of the show.
Is it supposed to be funny?
No.
The bit with the bunny?
No, absolutely not. Why not? Okay. Yes, but no. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, it thinks that it's funny for reasons that are completely unhinged from why it's actually funny. Does that make sense?
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Like, there's... Like, it just falls apart in the recounting of it, which I'm now realizing about 10 minutes too late. Like, you just can't describe the things that happen in this show, because they just don't fit together in a way that makes sense. Like,
they don't have any connective tissue.
Basically, like, the show randomly reveals, like, about halfway through, that, what even is the lead character's name? I've forgotten. But him and his sister are, like, in a relationship, and not in the coy way that anime often is. It's extremely explicit, uncomfortably explicit.
So, like, we're talking just like out and out sister fuck.
Yeah.
Do you actually see potentially...
It is, I mean, like, this show aired on TV, but they get as fucking close as they can, pun intended.
Oh my...
It's real bad. Like, if you are an absolute connoisseur of terribly put together television, maybe you can get something out of it. My primary response to the show while I was watching it was like panic laughter. Like, you just can't believe that you're seeing what you're seeing. And that, like, people put money into it, and that it aired on television, and so on and so forth.
Oh dear.
Like, it's just... And on top of that, there's all these individual moments that, in a show that was more self-aware, would seem like they were intentional comedy, but it's Big Order, so I don't think they are. Like,
oh no.
It's like... Is it worse than Aki Sora? I have never seen that, so I can't...
I believe I am... Aki Sora. I've heard Aki Sora.
Like, my baseline for terrible anime is Asuka, which I have repeatedly refused to discuss on this show because it just makes me too angry. And it's not as bad as that show. And it's not as bad as some, like I think the worst thing a piece of art can do is be boring. Big Order is definitely not boring. But, like, it's fucking terrible, though. So, like, I don't know. It really puts into perspective, let me put it this way, it really puts into perspective that actually, a lot of modern anime is quite well made.
Yeah.
Or not even well made, well written. Like, compared to that, like,
it's at least put together. It's coherent.
Makes Sword Art Online look like fucking Shakespeare.
Jesus Christ. Wow. Like, oh man.
If that is like a trigger for you, absolutely avoid Big Order like the plague. Not that you should watch it anyway, but like...
Yeah, Aki Sora, is one of... Yeah, it's... is that the same as...
if you...
I think it's different from, Yosuka... Was it Yosuka no Sora? Yeah, which is, like... Might be... Or they might be connected.
Sora's just like a name, right?
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah, but they might be connected series. But, like, that description sounds similar to Yosuka no Sora, which is... Yeah, it's that. Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, like, I immediately...
I
honestly thought of Seikon no Quasar.
I've never seen that. The thing that, like, there's two things that, in my opinion, prevent it from being unwatchably bad. Those being that it's got, like, good production values. The opening theme is, like, really good and has no business being the opening theme of a show that bad.
Huh. Wait, did you say that you've seen Seikon no Quasar?
I said I haven't seen it.
That's the one with the breastfeeding superpowers.
All right, well, we can get to that at some other point.
That one actually did air on TV.
Oh my god.
Was it ATX? Because that doesn't count. Anyway.
Okay, fair enough.
But like,
but,
no,
like,
what
it
I
was censored on television.
What I was getting at is, he was like, the show just sounds like if you try to describe it, it just sounds like nonsense, which it is. Like, there's this one scene where they're in, like, an underwater cave and they're fighting a dude with water manipulation superpowers, and the guy mind controls a bunch of fish, and they, like, mob him, and he shouts "fish gun" at the top of his lungs. Like, moments like that when I was watching it, I was like, if this was the whole show, I'd give this like an 8 out of 10. But it's not, unfortunately. It's just... It's the kind of thing that really... I was devoured by a man trap.
Delicious.
Ugh.
That sounds like an innuendo.
It's not. Man trap is a vicious man-eating plant. I'm going to put it back.
Feed me, Seymour. Feed me.
I'm going to put it back at the main menu for a second while I
totally Rule 34 of that film.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I need to use the restroom real quick. I'll be right back.
I also have to.
God, you do that on purpose.
Yeah, I'll be back in a second.
So you leave me to my own devices. I'm addicted. It's a crisis.
Oh dear.
What you got, boy, is hard to find. I think about it all the time. All strung out, my heart is fried. I just can't get you off your mind because your love, your love, your love is my drug. Your love, your love, your love. I said your love, your love, your love is my drug. Your love, your love, your love. I don't care what people say, the rush is worth the price I pay. I get so high when you're with me, but crash and crave you when you lay. So I got a question. Do you want to have a summer party in my basement? Do I make your heart beat like an 808 drum? Is my love your drug? Your drug. Your drug. Your drug is my love, your drug. Because your love, your love, your love is my drug. Your love, your love, your love. I said your love, your love, your love is my drug. Your love, your love, your love. Ah. 2010 was a time. Oh, 10 years ago, y'all. Can you believe that? It's insane. I was obsessed with Kesha back then. 10 years ago, Jesus. I was 14 years old. 13 years old for most of it. Damn. It's crazy. Hi.
I forgot to turn my microphone back on. I'm back.
How you doing?
I'm alive. Which
the kitty is visiting my room.
Oh, cool.
I serenaded our audience with an old Kesha song.
Oh, that's good.
Neat. Yes?
Nope. Train of thought left the station ahead of schedule. Anyway,
so big order.
It's a bad show. Don't watch it. Like I thought
she wants to leave.
I thought this was going to be funnier to talk about when I started talking about it, and I'm realizing like no, actually it's not really.
I mean,
the series itself is intermittently funny, mostly accidentally. There is one genuinely very funny moment in the second episode. The female lead, her power is that she is immortal, which is, pretty easy to understand. And there's this bit, I didn't mean to do that. Let's just pull a restart on that one. There's this bit in the second episode where they're like infiltrating a base, And she's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'm great at getting through traps without getting hit." And she just goes through this gauntlet and gets gotten by literally every single thing in it, and just keeps dying over and over again. It's actually very funny. It's like something out of fucking Looney Tunes.
Oh, by the by, you mentioned that Ari Ferretta was by the same studio. Do you know what else they shared?
Several things, but what's the...
Chief character designer and animation director.
Oh, so my brother would love it.
Which, given the quality of the animation at the beginning of Ari Ferretta, is maybe not the best sign.
Yeah, like, I don't know what happened to... Like, the studio made Big Order and then they were cursed. Like, that's all... Like, the only other thing they've worked on since then, like between Big Order and Art of Ferretta, I think, is, King of Vermilion, which I think people also hate. I don't know as much about that one, though.
God.
Like, yeah, the thing about Art... Oh, he was also the chief animation director on Future Diary, by the way.
Well,
so
that makes sense, yeah. But like I said, there's people who like Future Diary, or at least think it, like, has, you know... Well, I don't want to say that it has merits. Everything has some merits, but you know what I mean. Like... Yeah. Enough merits to be worth watching for your average person.
It's like the guys worked on stuff that does not look bad. It's just the thing with Ari Ferretta, I think, was like the big basically the production
it was
completely imploded.
Yeah, it was like a famous production train wreck. Which I think is probably a good sign, or not a good sign, a sign that studio is probably not going to be around for much longer, which is unfortunate because no studio should go out with something like Ari Ferretta, but
they got their act together later in the show in terms of production, that it just wound up being pretty average. Like, you know, it's not awful looking or anything.
So you're telling me that the swan song of this studio was a awkward harem anime? Isn't even a harem anime that's fun. Like, it's just kind of like it can't decide whether or not it wants.
Yeah, no, go on.
Like, it can't even decide whether or not it wants to be silly about it, and just, you know, kind of in that vein, versus just being outright trying to do the whole action thing and then
yeah, I mean, you specifically, Trey, may not know this because I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you watch a ton of modern seasonal anime.
Yeah, not a ton. Occasional when they pique my interest, but I'm not not a regular anime watcher.
That weird tonal, just complete tonal and genre incoherency is fairly emblematic of the whole Naro-K thing, which is what that specific movement is called. Most of them are also isekai series.
Yeah, they're kind of power trip series.
Yeah, and
there are apparently a few good ones here and there.
I've seen Danmachi.
So Bailey Core, got it.
I actually, basically, given what you've told me of his taste in anime, I've seen the first season of Danmachi. I think Danmachi's pretty good. That's the only one I've seen where I'm this is pretty good.
Yeah, Danmachi, it looks cute.
Yeah, it's, I wouldn't call it a masterpiece, but it's...
but it's charming.
It's solid genre fiction in a genre that sorely needs that, so...
Yeah. So
You know.
another show that As Red worked on.
As
I think
Red.
it is As Red.
That's what they call it.
As Red. But treated as one word, so it looks like, Asgore's less interesting brother. They also did I Couldn't Become a Hero, so I reluctantly decided to get a job. Which...
What a title.
That just sounds like what happens after like a D&D campaign just dies.
I haven't heard a lot about it, but apparently it seems fine. It is a comedy where, like, the setup is right there.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a perfectly serviceable, like, gimmick comedy.
Like, apparently, it becomes kind of awkward because it throws in some, like, dodgier jokes in the premise of the enchanted appliance shop. But, like, it's, mostly, like, just what you would expect. It's fine.
Enchanted appliances, you say?
Yeah, at one point there is a microwave that becomes possessed and has tentacles, and you can see where it can go from there.
That's actually no, that's like nowhere near where I thought that was going. Okay.
No, I kind of figured because
I honestly,
my mind. Unfortunately, I was reminded, and like I feel weird admitting it, but like I was reminded of a former coworker of mine at like one of the jobs that I had that used to brag about once working at a dildo factory.
That's kind of funny, honestly. At least to me, it is. Probably less funny after the 13,000th time you've heard it.
He was a piece of work. And that's all I'm gonna say.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, I honestly thought the joke there was gonna be like, they sell dildos too. But no, we went full.
Kind of creepy.
Yeah, no. Anyway,
but I mean, like, apparently most of the comedy in it isn't nearly that bad.
Hey, so like, to talk about a good thing, this show, for once at least, I've also been watching.
One single good thing. We get one.
I've also been watching Sleepy Princess and the Demon Castle, which is also a gimmick comedy, and is very funny.
That sounds very Senti-core.
It does. I told her that she should watch it because it is.
It is, that I have been peripherally aware of this show and the manga it's based on for a while, and it is Senti-core.
Here's the high concept, okay? Like, generic JRPG fantasy world. Evil demon lord kidnaps a princess. But get this, she wants to take a nap, like, all the time. That's it!
I mean,
and so she gets into
quality fucking entertainment.
Into, like, really involved hijinks.
Yes.
In her extreme determination to take a decent nap.
Yeah, like it's actually very funny.
Like, this girl's more dedicated than Gudetama?
Yeah.
Like, just going... Yeah, like, I am going to get some fucking sleep, and you can't stop me.
It honestly, like, after like, by the end of the first episode, you end up sympathizing more with the demons, because, like, she seems like a terrible house guest, frankly.
Yeah, it's just, oh no.
No. Brought it upon themselves.
It's a fun show. It's, like, actually one of the best things airing this season. And it like, I don't think it's been a bad season, but I think most of the things that I was looking forward to have underperformed. To put it very mildly, in the case of The Day I Became a God, which I don't even want to talk about that show right now. But yeah, it's like one of the better things airing this season. The other thing I've heard a lot of good things about is Akudama Drive, which surprised me because that is from the Danganronpa team.
Huh.
But it's apparently actually very good. And also nothing at all like Danganronpa. So that might have something to do with it.
Oh, so I just want to like throw something out here because, you know, we all need some psychic damage.
I think there's been quite enough of that this episode, to be honest.
Asred have very few primary titles to their name. They did a lot of work, obviously, like, you know, they helmed Arifureta and Big Order. What else do you think they helmed? Like, they've done a lot of production cooperation. Sometimes on really good stuff.
I'm not gonna be able to guess this. Shredney, do you know how many anime games?
Do I look like I know anime?
Even like in one, like I do know anime. But
Okay,
like...
actually, there is one thing that's easy to guess, which is 2 of the Mirai Nikki OAVs.
Okay, well that doesn't count. That's just Mirai Nikki again.
Yeah, it's just Mirai Nikki again, but they weren't actually involved
Wesley,
in the series.
This is the 3rd time you've shown Mirai Nikki to the class.
No, but that wasn't the one that I wanted to bring up. I just noticed that.
Yeah.
Scrolling through. But okay, is like that one slipped by. But okay, gonna ignore that. Queen's Blade Grimoire OAV.
Look, I don't want to...
What?
Listen, I have to draw the line somewhere. We're not talking about fucking Queen's Blade in shapes and forms. Get that out of here.
Lord. Oh Lord.
I don't know what this is, and I'm afraid.
If you don't know, don't worry about it.
It's got tits.
I mean, one could probably figure that part out, but like...
Yeah, no, it's just like a very...
It's a notorious battle vixen show.
Yeah.
Like...
Just like... You know that Tumblr post where it's like... And this girl, she's got huge badam-badam-badam-badam-badam-badams. Is that show? It's that kind of show.
Every single character is that girl.
Go-Go is also a fan of it, which it's not something I would have made public knowledge if they had not, she had not chosen to post that fact about herself and call herself out in perhaps the most brazen fashion I've ever seen anyone do so. It might be a good show. I think it's difficult to argue that it's not like a very silly show though.
It's like
I've never seen it, but I know what the character designs look like, and you know, it's really rude. Really.
Don't interrupt. Rude.
Really.
Oh no. Oh, you got past the ghost. Holy shit.
Apparently the ghost is also a fan of Queen's Blade. Give him a... Alright.
Oh, that sucks.
It's good for what it does. I mean, I can buy that. I'm not above that kind of show. Like, I've watched and pretty much enjoyed the Senran Kagura anime. It was, like, not something I'd ever recommend to anybody, but I thought it was fun.
You never said it was good. You said you liked it.
I mean, like, on some level, I think that's an artificial distinction, but it's one lots of people engage with, so that's, like, the easiest way to put it, I guess.
So, like, Pickle and Peanut is not good, at least not in the traditional sense that most people measure.
Honestly, I think that your boundless love of Pickle and Peanut is much more defensible than me kinda liking Senran Kagura. Like, just being honest.
Okay, fair.
So, like, I mean...
I'll tell you what, Go-Go, I'll check that out the next time I'm in the mood for a perfect 6 out of 10 anime.
Oh, better word is...
I think it would be very funny if Gogo said a better word is, and then just didn't, like, just left us hang in there.
I think a lot about the fact that Pickle and Peanut, the first episode, has what's essentially a no homo joke, because it has the two of them essentially like having a tender moment and then slapping each other as if to like negate the thing. And the show literally ends, meanwhile, with them having a reunion of sorts that's like essentially a renewal of vows between them, because it's them like consummating their friendship.
Hey,
I think about these things.
I just had this is not me making fun of you in the slightest, and I mean that sincerely. I just had this crystal clear mental image of just like somebody making a Tumblr post that is just the Pickle and Peanut from Pickle and Peanut, and the text is just these two food items are gay and you can't do anything about it. I think that is a Tumblr post that should exist.
I literally have said in ISO that Pickle and Peanut belongs to the gays. So I mean, Disney doesn't want it. So like,
that is technically a Disney
fucking
show. Man,
it's the weirdest shit. Like even the people that make it admit that it was a weird home for that.
It's not the weirdest IP that Disney owns. We could talk about that. That's got a new season airing this year.
Oh, you mean Fireball?
Yeah.
Actually, that may not even be the weirdest IP that Disney technically
Maybe
owns.
not, but like it's got to be up there.
Like, God.
You know anything about
if you
Fireball?
Count shit like Miramax and stuff.
I don't know if I do.
Fireball is a surreal CGI animated comedy anime. It is to my knowledge at least, the only original IP created by Disney of Japan under their Jenny Pictures label. It is about a robot girl and her companion, who was like a big blocky robot, in a weird, like, sort of vaguely implied to be post-apocalyptic setting, and they just kind of like talk about stuff.
Dare I say this kind of sounds like my shit?
I honestly think it's like a really good show. Like, it's very strange, but it's pretty good. I don't think you can stream it anywhere legally unless you live in Japan, in which case this is not a joke, on Disney XD.
Fucking Japanese Disney Plus has Pickle and Peanut, but American Disney Plus does not.
That's amazing.
I feel like I've mentioned this, but like
maybe it's the same people watching both.
No, yeah, like Pickle and Peanut is a thing in Japan. Like people actually like it there.
That happens. There's they have a specific term for like American cartoons of a specific style that I don't remember, but it's like kind of a cult thing over there. It much the same way that anime is over here.
Oh yeah, I've seen the robot girl from this.
I only know this because Korone, the HoloLive VTuber, is into these things and has a somewhat famous video clip where she says, "Happy Tree Friends is crazy anime."
Nice.
I mean, she is right.
It's a correct analysis.
It's true.
I mean, it is basically the bludgeoning angel Dokuro-chan of the West.
Hey, I don't like
I'm
Happy
serious.
Tree Friends, but you don't gotta insult it.
I mean, like,
Don't talk to me about Bludgeoning Angel Dokuro-chan. I think that's the first anime I ever saw that I did not like.
they
Like,
hated
at all.
that she spoke the truth.
This show's fucking terrible.
I mean,
Do you get it? The joke is that she hits him with a spiked club. Do you?
yes.
And he and he, like, morally deserves it because he's a terrible pervert. Do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it?
Do you understand the humor?
No, I actually, like, Go-Go, I don't like Happy Tree Friends basically at all. I think that is better than Bludgeoning Angel Dokuro-chan. By, like, a not insignificant amount. That show sucks. I'm sorry. Those were the like, I don't even remember who it was. It was somebody I used to know on TV tropes who would recommend me stuff like that. And sometimes it was pretty good, and other times it was like that.
Pain.
Yeah. Like, I don't know.
The pain of being whacked over the head.
Maybe I have
with a big
forgotten the good parts of Dokuro-chan.
With nails.
But, like, when I try to recall the show, it's just a collage of him getting beamed in the head with...
The Evil Dead 2 of Ichi.
What does that mean?
That's a really interesting comparison. I'm kind of into this.
But yeah, no, Fireball was, like, genuinely really good. You should watch it, Trey. It inexplicably got a 4th season this year after having not had one for, like, 4 years.
Well, you know.
The new season also isn't called Fireball anymore, it's called Gabout for some reason.
Disney works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, I don't know why they changed the name. Like, the other ones all had subtitles, because that's how they do seasonal demarcations over there usually.
Yeah.
But, they just decided to call the new one Gabout. It is the same show. I think it's like a prequel or something. Not that continuity matters very much to that show. It's also the only series its director's ever done. Like, that guy's entire filmography is just directing specifically that show. It's very strange. Anyway.
So... Like...
Yeah.
Man, you just cooked that dude.
So, question, what is the most cursed thing I've ever said on this stream
Shredney,
that you would actually willingly repeat?
Shredney, I don't know. You've said just, like, occasionally you say things that I just, like, don't even understand. Like, I don't know. I'd have to, like, run the tapes back. I'd have to watch every episode of Shapes and Forms from the beginning. A thing that nobody has ever done. Except, I mean, I guess technically I kind of have because I've been there for all of them, but I don't think that really counts. I still think our best, I still kind of think we peaked with the episode about Warrior Cats.
That was a really good episode.
And that was before I moved, so, like, it's just the entire, you know, second season of Shapes and Forms has been just us trying in vain to recapture that glory.
Man,
oh dear.
Fucking chilling, okay?
I'm just kidding.
We're doing the damn thing, alright?
I mean, like, something.
What is what sound, Hugo? But, yeah, I don't know. It's, like,
chilling.
Like, there's, I think, one more show before the year ends, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're on to 2021, which is, like, insane.
Terrifying prospect.
We doing Christmas?
I would like to. It will depend on if Sherry and Marie want to do anything for Christmas. And if so, if it will take much of the day. If we're gonna be free all day, I kind of want us, because like everybody's home because of quarantine, so like I would like us, if we have the ability to just kind of like hang out on Shapes and Forms all day. I think that would be really fun.
That'd be fun.
Like, well, not all day, but like we do a long show.
That'd be nice.
So my folks are like coming. My big sis is coming home, and her boyfriend's coming. So
Okay.
I don't 100% know whether or not I'm gonna be around, but if y'all are doing anything like that, I'll probably like stop by.
Yeah, like obviously, like I know everybody's got plans, probably.
Right.
So I my assumption is that I would be like the anchor, while the rest of y'all and perhaps some very special guests rotated in and out. We have much longer talks about anime directors. I don't know if I would consider that an improvement, to be honest. I think that, like, at some point our show kind of started doubling as the anime podcast that Shredney and I keep meaning to make. And it's, you know, it's got its own merits, but like,
by the way,
it's not very funny, is the thing.
When are you free to like watch and yet retaliate?
Literally always, as I've
okay,
continued
good.
to tell you several times.
God damn it. Okay.
Like the last 3 times you asked,
I'll-
Shredney.
I'll
So
like
can I-
annoy you about it tomorrow or something.
Okay.
So can I guess on this hypothetical anime podcast when you need somebody that does not know what the fuck they are talking about?
Yeah, sure.
Because I got you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man.
It's Under the Altar, really? Really?
The altar.
Well, this sucks. Yeah, okay.
Oh no.
Yeah, okay.
It's full of bees.
Yeah, okay.
Why is the altar full of bees?
She, if you get negative favor, she summons stuff at you. I knew the second that it was Under the Altar that I was probably not getting into there alive.
Oof.
Well,
or into there at all.
But yeah, no, it's like sometime when we do an episode on some show you're like broadly interested in, we can have you watch it as well, and you can guest.
Yeah.
I think that will be, like, I think that's going to be one of my New Year's resolutions, is we need to actually start that series. Because,
yeah.
I want to do a podcast too, but I have no idea what I want it to be about.
I actually kind of have 2 in the works, because me and Alice keep batting around this idea of doing, like, a humorous podcast where we look at various related lists of names, like, you know, names of US presidents or whatever, and we rank them based on whether or not they'd be good names for a pet cat.
Valid.
The podcast is going to be called Good and Bad Names for Cats. I need to just, like, talk to her and we can hash out a time to
It's a practical it's a practical guide.
Yeah.
Practical cats.
Well, that's probably going to be the first episode when we do that, is the Book of Practical Cats. And then we'll branch out from there.
Oh my goodness.
But,
what is objectively the worst cat name?
Whiskers.
Adolf Hitler. Next question.
God.
Am I wrong?
Yes.
That would be a terrible thing to name a cat.
Lovecraft's cat.
Yeah.
Oh,
that
yeah.
one. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, that's real bad. But in terms of, like,
Yeah.
ones that are not, like, outright offensive, I think that Whiskers... Yeah, that's a contender.
Whiskers is just super generic. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like so, but it's like so generic.
Generic to the point of just sounding apathetic.
You could name a cat like here's the thing, right? There's not actually any limits on what you can name a cat, unless you're like showing it, right? You're like 85% sure the cat name podcast will come out before the anime podcast. Listen.
Like, it involves, like, okay, it doesn't
activating.
involve me, so you're probably right.
We're activating cat mode.
Like, the horrible truth is just that I am to the cat podcast what Shredney is to the anime podcast, which is just like, I need to just set the smallest amount of time aside and do it, but I just haven't.
Do it to it.
Yeah. This is also making me, like, reminding me that, I don't know what the future of the whole VTuber thing is gonna be. Cause, like, I've started, like, already getting kind of burned out on that, and I've only been doing it very infrequently for, like, 2 weeks. So...
Oof.
I don't know. At some point, we might just migrate the VTuber model over here. Is a very real possibility.
That could be fun.
Like a thing because like I don't want to not use it. It's a very nice model, and Luna made it for me, like literally just out of the kindness of her heart. I don't know. Like I'm not giving up on that yet, but
I can understand it being, like, very energy intensive.
It's like you have to do so much stuff by yourself. Like you have to be like, obviously you have to stream. You have to be your own asset. You have to be like your own art manager. You have to be your own social media manager. You have to talk to like a ton of people if you want to get any traction whatsoever. It's just very energy intensive. And like I still watch a fair amount of VTubers, but I think I'm also kind of past the honeymoon period where I'm like, this is the new cool thing that's like the best thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't know how like super devoted to the whole concept I am anymore, but I don't know. I'm not giving up on it yet, like I said. Yeah, maybe not giving up on it at all. I shouldn't even phrase it that way. But like I don't know. I need to rethink some things.
Yeah, like how you want to go about it.
Yeah, also, I forgot that verifying a YouTube channel, which I need for the VODs, is hell. So I hope nobody was super attached to the Unfinished Swan series, because Twitch deleted all that already.
Oh god, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Those
were really, really good.
I went to look at the stuff like yesterday, and like everything from before last week is gone. So
Jesus Christ.
yeah, it's like for whatever like Twitch will send you notifications for fucking everything, but not when your VODs are about to expire, which is like the one thing I would actually like to be reminded about.
Yeah, I know, right?
Very much relevant information.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's absurd. That's really... And that really sucks, because I was gonna watch those fucking VODs.
Yeah, like, I'm legitimately sorry.
It's like...
I was like, very upset about that.
Oh, no. I can definitely imagine.
Like, some of the stuff that was left is now up on YouTube, on the Chiaroscuro channel, like, YouTube channel. But,
I mean, I am following.
Yeah, but they're all cut up into 15-minute parts, because that's what you have to do if you don't have a verified YouTube channel.
This site was sold for $970 million 6 years ago.
Really makes you think.
Really? Yeah, like, all that money and you still can't manage to keep people's videos on demand.
Like, it's not even that they delete them, because, like, I get it, server space is not free. But, like, little notice would have been nice. Because, like, it doesn't... Like, if you actually go to look at the video producer, they're labeled there. Like, this VOD will expire and blah 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 days. But if you don't specifically go to look at that screen, you have no way of knowing if they're, like, gonna be deleted soon. It's just, like, it is ultimately my fault, I guess, for not being more diligent about it, but it's just super annoying.
But it's also, you know, just that, like, the approach that different streaming sites have taken to stuff around copyright has not been great.
Oh, that's not even a copyright thing, I don't think. It's just, like, they don't want to pay for the...
Oh, it's just the service space.
Yeah, I think it was VOD preservation.
There's also been, like, a recent threat by...
Even though they're owned by Amazon, which literally runs 30% of the internet.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Also,
it's cheapskate shit, but whatever.
Yeah, and also...
Will you bite the hand that feeds you? Will you stay down on your knees?
Now, I do want to point out, I know those are song lyrics, but Twitch does not feed me anymore because I lost access to my, you know, my good Twitch account where I had affiliateship.
Can you get affiliateship back?
Oh yeah, like eventually.
One day.
Like you guys don't know how long it took me to get affiliate on that.
Jesus Christ.
On the Planet Jane channel. I had that channel for like 3 or 4 years before we started doing patron forms on it.
Yikes.
You have to be like active really consistently for a really long time. Like it's a lot easier than getting partnered, but it's still not super easy, and it's annoying.
Unless you go viral and manage to get like several thousand followers overnight or something.
Yeah.
That's 9 Inch Nails, the hand that feeds, isn't it?
Yeah.
Montgomery, no.
Just how deep do you believe?
Yeah. But yeah, no, at the I don't want to make this like a super bitter episode or anything, but it's just like I'm just very annoyed by that, and I won't lie, that was like a big factor in me being like, maybe this whole prospect is just not working out. Because like with the Shapes and Forms channel, as long as I remember to export things before they expire, which to be fair, I don't always, it's not a problem. But like, I don't really know what I'm gonna do with the Kia YouTube channel, because I don't have a phone number anymore, and Carrie's phone is already tied to a YouTube channel because she has a YouTube channel too. So like, I don't really know what to do.
Does it support Google Voice numbers?
I don't know actually. I should look into that.
It might not always do that, but like it's worth checking.
Big bomb.
Also, that's a big bomb. Jeez.
Yeah. That just took out everything.
Yeah, it worked out for me. But like, yeah, I don't know. It's like one reason I've been kind of like, I don't know how long that's gonna be something I stick with. Because I've also been getting back, like, doing more writing stuff lately, which I think, like, I don't know. Yeah. I'm better at that, and I don't have many, but I have, like, a couple readers who are willing to, like, donate with that and stuff, so I can actually make some money off of it. Not a ton, but not zero.
I think I am wondering if there would be, like, some way to combine elements of these many things.
Like, I've actually thought of that, because, like, you know, Anatuber's are a thing, but, like, that's not me. Like, cool. I can't be, like, I don't know, I can do critic mode, or I can do entertainment mode. I can't really do both at the same time, and I don't know that I would want to, even if I could.
That is fair, although I think there's a little bit of that's going to be happening with the podcast, frankly.
Some of it, sure, but, like, I don't know.
And also, I think that your writing is rather entertaining and has moments of that distinctly dry sense of humor that you have.
This is a vaguely embarrassing admission, but my two biggest writing influences are the This Week in Anime guys.
Okay.
And Ian Cohen.
Ian Cohen, as in...
The Pitchfork writer, yes.
Huh.
It's a weird thing because I don't really listen to much indie rock, but I read a lot of his reviews, especially his ones on stuff that are not super positive, and I think it's just kind of crept into how I write about things. I mean, like, there's other people, like going outside other writers, there's, like, Pause and Select, and...
Yeah.
But actually, another vaguely embarrassing one, depending on how you feel about these kinds of things, Todd in the Shadows.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily consider those things terribly embarrassing, personally.
You wouldn't. I wouldn't necessarily either, but there are many people who I think would. But
yeah, it's like, but I feel like I feel like becoming excessively self-conscious about the influences on how you talk about media, for example, it feels very precious.
What do you mean?
To me, and in the sense that, like, you're going, like, how, well, the way that I, look at media is pure and very literary and advanced.
Oh yeah, no, that would be ridiculous. and that's like, regardless of who's saying that.
Yeah,
everybody has writing influences.
And it's like, I mean, I don't know if I honestly think there are plenty of people who operate on unconventional platforms or in various ways who are probably more interesting commenters on music or other forms of art than a lot of people in traditional kind of venues.
Yeah, I always make this distinction. I don't really consider myself an anime critic. Really, I consider myself like an anime commentator, which is not
understandable,
super different, especially not nowadays. But I feel like with the term critic, there's a supposition of definitiveness, which, wow, I actually just said that out loud. But you know what I mean,
no,
right?
That
like,
ridiculous to me.
Like,
I know what you meant.
Yeah, like there's a
supposition of definitiveness.
Yeah, there's like
that you're supposed to be like authority figure.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's like there's an assumption that you're authoritative, which I don't think I am, and I don't really aspire to be either.
Yeah.
I think that wanting to be an authority on something is very, honestly, like, weird.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a thought leader. That's like,
Yeah.
That's
Especially that
business
phrasing.
speak. Yeah.
The term thought leader.
Yeah, that's like
makes my skin crawl.
Yeah, that's what fucking business majors call people with.
Yeah.
Business majors call people with more than 100 Twitter followers. That's not a joke. My fucking marketing and media professor used that term constantly when I was in college.
I mean, I know, and it's horrifying.
Yeah, fuck that guy. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, the other thought I've had is maybe I should just transition to doing, like, short little things on YouTube with the Chia persona. Because, like, there's so many people who stream as VTubers. Ah, really? Well.
Yeah, the skeleton murdered your Steve.
Like, there's so many people who stream as VTubers, and that's fine. I like streams. I like watching streams. Gogo can probably attest to this. The way that I talk while I'm streaming is extremely indebted to how Northern Lion talks while he's streaming. Down to, like, the inflections and stuff, which is something I'm extremely self-conscious about, but, like, what can you do about it?
I don't know. Being familiar with Northern Lion, I like...
What'd you say? You cut out a little bit.
Being only barely familiar with Northern Lion, so, as someone who is not immediately picking up on that, I don't know. It doesn't.
I don't think it's a bad thing. What?
Oh, the dog.
The dog got impaled.
Yeah, Monty's not having a great day.
And it wasn't your fault either.
Not this time, no.
Also, that horrible
baby.
lizard keeps injuring Quillback for you.
Yeah. Well, now he got his revenge with that particular.
Whoop!
Fuck it. Let's go to Volcana. Like, why not? But
I am always in Volcana.
Yeah, no, like, I don't think it's a bad thing or anything. It's just, to me, it's extremely noticeable. Other people have told me they don't, like, really hear it unless I specifically point it out, but I don't know. But anyway,
I suspect that's actually the case, that it is more subtle, a lot more subtle than you think it is.
Maybe. You know, it helps that I don't, like, try to nick his jokes, is probably another thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I don't know. Like, there's so many people who do streaming as VTubers. I feel like there's sort of a dearth of, like, short form stuff, so I might like, pivot to doing more of that. I don't know. It's a thing that I need to think about. And then the question is, like, well, what kind of short form stuff? And the answer is, I don't really know. I've had some ideas, but they all require, like, just slightly more production acumen than I have. But, you know, that's fixable.
Relatable.
And I also kind of want to get back into music a little bit. I started to actually miss it, but I need to, like, get my stuff off of my busted laptop, which will require, like, one of those fucking USB to motherboard cables that they make.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to be a whole adventure at some point.
Those are actually not very expensive in my experience.
It's not that they're expensive. It's that they're apparently...
kind of cumbersome.
What?
It just sounds a bit cumbersome to deal with.
It's just, yeah, it's like, they're hard to use, I think, is more the thing. From what I understand. But, yeah, so, like, I don't know. The other thing, like, the other thing is that, like, I don't... want to totally give up yet either, because like,
of course,
you know, quote another VTuber, if you quit while you suck at something, you'll always suck at it. So like,
yeah.
Well, to quote a show that I like, sucking at something's the first step at being kind of good at it. So.
Stick the dog.
A legend.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I've got a lot of things going, and only a very vague idea of how to make them go in the same direction, to use an overly clumsy metaphor. Rock Dog Time, Mark II.
Double dogs.
Not, sir. Please.
Please, sir, may I not have some flings? You feel protected.
I want to get that pot of gold. But now that I'm thinking about it, like, why? Because we're not on the path that goes to the black market. So
you're just after the Lucky Charms is all.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna try to kill Dracula. Who actually, like, is
the ditches and burn through the witches of Sam in the back of my Dracula.
Thank you.
Oh my god.
But, like, Dracula is actually in this game. It's not just something I said earlier for fun. I will do the moon challenge, though. We're, like, running way over time, but that's fine, because we didn't have a show last week, so...
Working you in overtime.
We go a little bit overtime. That's fine, in my onion.
It's a fun and sexy, oversized shapes and forms and shapes.
I mean, I was thinking that, you know, we do feel very protected, so we are ready.
Shredney?
Dare I say we vibe it?
Don't kill me.
Dare I say we vibe it?
But yeah, like, God, I've said "but yeah" too many times tonight. Anyway, I don't know. I've got many thoughts about like stuff I want to do in 2021.
Live through the ditches and laugh with the witches I love in the back of my Dracula.
Like,
Yeah.
Thank you, Go-Go.
Yeah. I'm gonna go. I don't know why I said yeah at that.
You're a master of your craft.
But,
You are also a master of your craft, Jane.
oh, thank you.
You as well, Shedney.
Thank you.
But, like, I always feel like there's a lot of stuff I want to do, and I'm always very short on time and energy to do it.
Yeah.
Which is a relatable feeling, I'm sure, but...
I think that's kind of like one side effect of our time economy, that, as it were, where like everything is sort of built around, you know, stuff kind of competing for what little parts of the day that we have between working and sleeping and...
Oh, so like that's definitely true for the vast majority of people, but I don't have a real job. So like...
Yeah.
I feel like I have so much less of an excuse than other people do. I mean, like I guess that's not totally fair, because I do still write for GGA once a week, but that doesn't take like that much time. Like that fills up my Fridays.
Right.
That's only one day out of the week.
But by the same token, I don't know. It feels like a false dichotomy to me.
I guess, yeah. But
like, because I feel like there are certain people who have a weirdly, like, pronounced ability to budget their time more than is, like, I feel is human.
Like, it might just be, like, another thing where it's like, it's an ADD thing. And maybe it is.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
But I do spend so much of my time just like looking at, but not really reading social media. It's a terrible habit, and I don't know how to fix it. I always seek success in the way of making it a career. Yeah, that's because I don't have any money. Not to be coy about it, but I did the math. I make about $400 a month from reader donations, which sounds like a lot.
No, that sounds like
Yeah, I was gonna say unless you have a really good idea of how much $400 a month is, which is not very much.
That's like $4,800 a year.
Yeah,
that's
to give you an idea, I do not make enough that I am obligated to pay taxes in the United States.
Yes,
I make under the federal tax minimum.
Yeah, that's like if you were to file, well, you do file taxes, but it's
no, I don't.
Don't?
I just don't bother because I don't.
You did.
No, I don't need to, and there's not really a reason to.
Oh, that's true. I mean, there are certain. I can't remember what point, but then again, I really wouldn't know because I have no income. It's quite something. So I have less experience with this even than that. Oh, you got burnified.
Abolish.
We'll give it one more try since we're in the middle of the conversation, and then we'll call it a night. One more.
Basic income should be a thing.
I wish.
Yes, yes.
I don't think the Biden administration is going to be the one to do that, but I'd love to be proven wrong.
Yeah. But I do think that, I have many problems with Andrew Yang, but I do appreciate that he put that on the table as a thing.
Yeah,
that people support.
I would. I would like it. I'm not trying to buy a yacht or anything.
Nah.
I would just like to be able to save some money at the end of each month, which is not currently a thing I can do.
Yeah,
shit, I'm trying to buy a yacht.
I mean, look, if somebody offered me a yacht, I wouldn't turn it down. I wouldn't keep it either. I'd sell it.
Yeah.
I live on the water.
Here's how Bernie can still win.
I actually legitimately would have use for a yacht if my family were within the means to get one.
Well, I mean, the way
it wouldn't be something we needed.
The way that Bernie could still win would be if he became Senator Pro Tem and just the entire 3 positions before him were cleared out completely.
You need to grind up your intrigue skill, Mr. Sanders. Thank you. That's a Crusader Kings joke.
Yeah.
But
just
But yeah, I've never really been much of a water type person, but I do indeed live on a lake, so it's within.
What lake do you live on?
Lake Norman near Charlotte in North Carolina.
Huh.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a very different sort of environment from Raleigh, which is a friend of mine described it as a small town spread out, just so everything's kind of it's in the shape of a city, but it's kind of not populated the way that a regular city
is,
downtown.
Hey, Trey, quick question. How annoying would it be if I was elitist about the fact that I live near a large lake?
I mean, it's a thing. If that's the case, that's okay. You got the city and the lake.
Yeah, but I don't leave my house. So I don't think I can brag about the city, really.
I mean, you still got the triple play bundle there.
I suppose. But...
What's number 3 in that? I don't know. I guess the train that passes by you.
Look, I'm gonna like if we end up moving next year like we want to, a little bit farther up the line into Evanston or Skokie or one of the other suburbs. I'm gonna miss having the red line roll by the window like every 15 minutes on the dot. I like it, yo.
Yeah.
Your environment, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when I was a little kid, I lived right next to a major highway, so like I'm used to sound.
So
in my case, it's mostly the kids on the apartment like above us making unholy like stomping noises at 3-4 fucking a.m. in the morning.
Oh no, yeah, that's horrible. Like the first.
It's so bad.
The first year that we lived here, we had really noisy downstairs neighbors. Like I don't know what they did, but like it sounded like they would always move the furniture around. Is what it sounded like to me. But they were real jerks about it. Everybody who lives here now is like pretty quiet. Occasionally there'll be like an argument outside or something, but
do you think that like it was a really involved sex thing?
I'm not ruling out the possibility. I think they were like college students, so you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the college students that live in the townhouses down this little like dead end street here, like just seeing them like at 3 in the morning, fucking, you know, either coming in
at
or
3 in the
out.
morning, comma, fucking.
Oh no, that was people who were renting the Airbnb next to us. Well,
oh no!
Yeah, they were.
No!
They were loud.
Oh no!
But the neighbors know my name.
I mean, there wasn't much verbal going on here. Let's just say that.
Sometimes they call me Trey, sometimes they say Tremaine. When it's all said and done, but the neighbors know my name.
Isn't that a Trey Songz song, actually?
It's a Trey Songz song.
A song by the singer known as Trey Songz?
Not to be confused with Trey, who makes songs.
Yeah.
Who is you?
What's Trey Songz up to these days? Is he still around?
I have no idea. I think he's still around, but I
hope he's doing well. I actually used to quite like Trey Songz. It's one of those artists I was really only familiar with, like, from the radio, but...
You just bought things from a caveman.
Yeah, there's a friendly caveman shopkeeper who shows up, like, occasionally.
Oh, that's neat.
He came out with an album in October. It was on Atlantic, so clearly he's, like...
Yeah,
doing the thing, I guess.
Like, I was gonna say, it would not surprise me if he was one of those, like, R&B lifer dudes who just, like...
Yeah.
Like, has a fan base of... Thanks, Aerotrat. Of, like, you know... I would guess mostly women, but I don't know. That might not be the case.
But I mean, it's
like a devoted fan base with like middle-aged people. Probably.
Robin Thicke before Blurred Lines.
Yeah. Robin Thicke had such a weird career.
Robin Thicke, like, I see him on a weekly basis on The Masked Singer because in our corporate nightmare that is 2019 and 2020, that has been something that I ended up, like, developing an unabashed love for, actually.
I saw one episode of The Masked Singer while I was at Popeyes one time, and I was like, if I still had cable, I would watch this all the time.
It's the most just deranged shit, and yet
it's such a stupid show.
A friend of mine, I started watching it like in college. Like the first 2 seasons aired during our senior year, so we ended up kind of developing a bit of an obsession, and like we watch it together still, even though like we're in two separate places. So like we talk to each other on Discord about it. So,
but actually, no, I didn't see the neighbors getting it on Go-Go. I did hear them though.
Something, something, something. Let the neighbors know my name.
Exactly.
Wait, they screaming, scratching,
Oh no.
Okay,
I thought that was gonna break the pot.
Baby stressing while we sexing.
Fuck, that is a line in that song. God, 2000s R&B was so fucking just dumb and great.
They be stressing while we sexing.
Like, actually, like, okay, again, this, like, show's running way too long, but this is a thing that is on my mind now. Like, remember how big Usher was? Like,
yeah.
My mom, who does not listen to R&B at all, liked Usher. I don't know how that happened. There's a jetpack in the wall. Let's go.
And then, of course, Usher did OMG, which was not good.
Like, those, you know, those, like, sellout pop tracks are what they are. I don't think anybody... Like, I don't think his fan base really holds those against him.
From the same era, I will admit to kind of actually, like, genuinely enjoying Lil Freak, which is his Nicki Minaj collab from around that time.
I don't think I know that one.
It samples, like, a Stevie Wonder track, I forget which one.
Oh no, Go-Go. Yeah.
Do you remember Usher? Yeah.
I'm doing the stupid dance as well.
I actually think that's like a 10 out of 10 pop song.
It's a fun song. I mean, it got way overplayed.
Ludacris fill cups like double D is one of my favorite lyrics of all time.
Oh god.
It's so, like... I love Ludacris. I miss Ludacris.
Take that and rewind it back. Usher got the voice, make the booty go back.
Well, yeah, like, what is that? Like, first of all, he pronounces Usher really weirdly. And, like, I guess that, like, he probably just, like, flubbed the tape and, like, kept it in for some reason. And then also, what does that mean?
Started doing it intentionally after a while, too.
It's just very...
Please tell your lovers and friends that Usher, John, and Luda had to do it again.
Usher?
Usher?
Like,
that's how he pronounces it in the song.
It's intentional at that point.
I just Gerd.
No, Tredney, no. We have left that one behind. It's kinda ableist.
That is fair. I generally associate that sort of voice with a bit from Prairie Home Companion from ages ago.
Yeah, no, like, I thought that it was related to, like...
Which was Irma and Myrtle Girdleson.
Yeah, like, I thought it was related to something like that, too, for the longest time.
Huh.
Apparently, it's making fun of, like, an autistic girl who posted on Reddit once. So...
Oh.
I didn't know that until, like, last year, so don't feel bad about it. But,
we'll say
you know.
instead that it's a nod to Ermengarde from Hello Dolly.
Ermengarde from Hello Dolly.
I mean, I thought that, like, I knew that the original image was actually a person, like, making fun of themselves. Like, the image that's famously associated with it. Like, the ridiculous outfit.
I don't know.
Like, this girl did it as a joke for, like, something in her yearbook. And, like, it wound up on the internet, and she was like, oh, lol.
Reminds me of how the guy in the fedora tip picture is like a really nice male photography model.
Huh.
He's like on Twitter. I forget his name.
Huh.
Where is it? Yeah, like, I'm pretty happy about that, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
I don't like to do the thing, where people go like, oh, even when I was, like, in grade school, I was, you know, so woke, or whatever.
No.
But, like, genuinely, even when I was a kid, and people would kind of, like, they didn't really make fun of him, but we had a developmentally disabled kid in my class, and people were, like, not very nice to him. I would just be like, what's the purpose of this thing that you're doing? I was
not comfortable with that sort of thing.
To be honest, I kind of still don't get this kind of thing, but when I was a kid, I super did not understand, like, social status games that people play with each other. Where it's like, you know, your goal is to avoid being the least cool person in the group because you'll get picked on.
Yeah, that's because people suck.
You know.
Actually.
Wow, this is a terrible black market.
I'm so glad that the, like, social hierarchy bullshit that was present in, like, high school, well, not really high school for me, but, like, certainly in the case of, like, middle and elementary school, where that was, like, something that seemed to be so prevalent throughout, like, the whole of, like, organized school doesn't really seem to be a thing, like, right now, especially for anybody, but in my case, not since, like, high school.
Yeah, I mean, like, I run into it on Twitter still. Because
I guess it depends on, like, the circles that one, like, is part of and everything.
It's part of that, and part of, like, in the specific case of Twitter, I kind of feel like it's set up to make people behave like this, kind of. But
yeah,
people who like, within a given, you know, there's all these, you know, whatever Twitters, right? Like, anime Twitter, music Twitter,
Black Twitter, Stan Twitter,
sure,
K-pop
yeah, like all those. It is kind of set up implicitly that people with more followers are seen as having more, pardon me for using this term, clout than people who have fewer ones, and
it's a relevant term here.
Yeah, it actively encourages you to, like, you know, if somebody says something you don't like, well, just quote RT them and stick your followers on them. You know,
yeah,
like, people do that kind of shit all the time. Like, I was literally talking today with like, I won't share the details, but I was talking today with the person who runs the Magical Girl of the Day Twitter account, and we were talking about that on that specific subset of, like, anime fan Twitter, and it's annoying. Like, it does happen. That stuff does happen to an extent on other social media platforms, because, like, I see it on, you know, Reddit and whatnot, Discord too. But I feel like it is really at its worst on Twitter. Like,
yeah, like, I think, again, Twitter is designed to do that whole quote-unquote engagement maximization thing.
Like,
by which we mean conflict maximization for the sake of advertising.
Yeah, like the way that Twitter, like even in an ideal world, the way the site is set up is with the assumption that the people who have the most followers are the most authoritative voices on a subject.
which
is not how
majoritarian bullshit.
Yeah, like this is not anything.
It's very, you know, like it honestly it makes me think of like that how so like the whole just the original the person who coined the term meritocracy was actually using it as coined the term ironically to describe like he was an old guard protectionist Tory and a member of the House of Lords who was commenting on like sort of neoliberal economic policy becoming more and more of a thing among the Tories, you know, like free markets and things, and it's like, oh, it'll create a meritocracy, I see. You really think that's the way that these things are run? And it's like, you know, that's kind of like, it's that very hyper-capitalist marketplace of ideas way of thinking.
You know, I don't like to be one of those left-leaning people who, whenever there's a problem, is like, capitalism caused this. Because I think that's a very simplistic view of the world.
Yeah,
but, like,
it's not even capitalism, it's just that logic.
Yeah, like, I do see the correlation, right? Because, like, if you're, Jack Dorsey, who my impression is that Twitter is very much one of those companies that is, run pretty much by its CEO's whims.
Yeah.
You think that majority, like, the am I just gonna get juggled to death? Is that what's gonna happen?
Jesus Christ!
Just jump up.
I can't. I'm stun locked.
Oh, he fucking stun locked you to death. What a dick!
Cool.
That so sucks.
Yeah. But like, all I was gonna say basically is like, you're primed to think that works because like, that's why people listen to you, at least ostensibly.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, it is what it is. I actually largely, like, I don't like Twitter, but I like the experience that I generally have on Twitter.
Yeah.
But that's the result of doing, like, a lot of, careful curation and, like, running my ad blocker and setting up a bunch of stuff so it doesn't force likes and responses into my feed, because like, honestly, I don't even want to see retweets most of the time. Likes and responses are obviously way too much, and, you know, all this other stuff that we've at this point talked about ad nauseum probably, but I mean, everybody I think here knows we're all on the same page.
I mean, like, I know that I probably take it further than a lot of people in that I'm like, well, actually, you know, there are a lot of
Strimmer.
It's just like it's you know how I feel about the tendency of left folks to not go far enough in their criticisms.
Oh, yeah, no, I know what you're referring to. But,
like,
like, even in sort of a less uppercase P political sense, I just feel like Twitter encourages mobbing people, which is the right solution to a very specific set of problems.
Yeah, it's like
most of which don't happen on Twitter.
Most of which do not happen on Twitter. Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
And,
it's like
average regular people would like never need to really be subjected to.
Yeah. Jesus.
Unless in very rare extenuating circumstances.
It is an extreme response to very specific and extreme problems. And don't do that to regular people. Just don't.
Hey guys,
even
guess
if
what?
they're being a dick.
Guess what?
Oh.
It's upside down!
Oh my god, it's like, let me try to read this. It's
to Hades.
Ia Lor was
To Hades.
Jabez.
It does. The bottom one does kind of look like it says to Hades. It really makes you think.
Is that what we're playing next?
Like, I've thought about playing...
It is
That's right? Yeah, okay. I've thought about playing Hades on the show before, but Hades runs are, like, really long, and the game has a lot of lore. So, like, I don't know.
I mean, but also the people in it are hot.
I mean...
I want to play it.
Oh, hey, I just looked. We actually don't have, like... Okay, no, we got a show on the 31st, assuming we do that. So, like, literally New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I would like to do a Christmas show next week, but I will talk
That'd be fun.
If not Christmas Day, we can probably do something
Christmas
Eve, yeah. Like,
Yeah,
I'll
24th
talk to
is
Carrie
Eve.
and Marie, and
The
I'll talk to you
24th is
guys.
Christmas Eve. The 25th is Christmas.
Yeah.
So, like...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because, like, I mean, there's the temptation to want to do it on Christmas proper to make it special, even though we don't normally stream on Fridays, but I don't know.
I mean, it
might be
on
better.
Christmas.
Yeah,
It'll wind up on Christmas, ultimately.
I guess that's true, like, at least in your time zone, yeah.
Mercridmar.
Yeah.
It Christmas. Merry Christmas.
We might do,
Okay.
like... I don't know, I've got
Oh, and
various
Happy
ideas.
Hanukkah, too.
Yeah, Happy Hanukkah
Precisely
to her.
none of the viewers that are regular here.
We've got there's like a weird amount of people who watch the VODs, like,
Oh, that's true.
not to say they're in any way unwelcome, but we have enough
Way.
enough VOD viewers that I'm pretty sure they're not all bots.
So, like, and there is a possibility that there are other people we know who are Jewish who aren't Daruznik.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
so it's like me and Daruznik and possibly one or two other people. So happy Hanukkah to that.
yeah.
And since I am, like, just completely mixed, I am, as I have joked before, a white mutt. I also celebrate Christmas because, hey, more presents.
I celebrate Candlemas because I listen to
Christmas.
my brother and me.
Oh, Candlemas is on Groundhog Day.
Or Candle... I fucked up the
Nights.
joke. It's Candle Nights. Candlemas is an actual holiday.
Candle Night. Oh no, Candlemas is an actual holiday.
Yeah.
That's what Groundhog Day is.
I just fucked the joke up, so it just sounded
When's
It's
nonsense.
also known as Rudmus.
When's Festivus?
Festivus for the rest of us is in January, I think.
Orthodox Christmas.
I
Anyway, we should go.
There's also Little Christmas, which is also Orthodox, and that's on the 14th of January or something.
Shredney, I'm gonna celebrate you on Christmas.
Yay! I like being appreciated.
With Cole!
Cole. Do you have friends named Cole?
No, it was a joke. Never mind.
Don't celebrate
Anyway.
with J. Cole. I don't like J. Cole. How dare you associate me with J. Cole?
I mean, the
And
North Carolinian in me is saying that he'd need to be offended by that joke, but yeah, fuck, I'm not. It's
J. Cole.
it's 12:43. We gotta go.
We gotta go.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night, everyone.